Hey,
Yeah, you can hear yourself, huh?
yeah,
Pretty amazing technology we got over here.
we got amazing technology.
Two turntables and a microphone. Something like that. Right, Andrew?
Give or take. A couple of microphones,
All right.
minus the turntables.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Mark Bell's Power Project. We got some fun guests here today, as always. We're always trying to bring people to you guys that we find interesting. And, sometimes it's a world-class lifter. Sometimes it's somebody that's just done well in business, and sometimes it's somebody that's had to be creative. We're always trying to bring some different people, give you guys some different flavor, give you guys some different things to chew on, because I think that perspective is what ultimately what a lot of us are looking for. Because you might hear a message from one person, it might not hit you the right way. You might hear a message from another person, it still might not work. But when you hear a message from people that you vibe with a little bit better, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I get it. This makes a lot of sense. So today I'm here with Neo Cookie. Did I say that right? Neo Cookie?
Nui.
Nui Cookie. There we go. Nui Cookie. See,
Nui cookie.
I'm already messing things up. But I met these guys down in Los Angeles about a year and a half ago. We've been in contact for a period of time. They sent me some. Originally, they were called Keto Cookie. They sent me some keto cookies back in the day, and I just think it's great that you guys got a business together. I think it's really cool that you guys got in the front end of the keto movement. Basically, there's been a lot of keto companies that have kind of popped up since you guys started. And I know that you guys have also met with my brother Chris, and you guys know him as well. And so it's been great to be in contact with these guys. And these are the kind of people that fire me up, that get me excited, because I know that as hard as I'm working and the stuff that I'm trying to do, I know that you guys are busting your ass too, and you guys are trying to make things better and trying to always improve. So let's kind of kick things off with you guys just, tell us about the company and tell us about kind of how you started.
Yeah, so we started this about a little over 2 years ago. I started keto after I got back from my honeymoon. I probably gained maybe 8 pounds on that honeymoon. I
Damn.
lost.
Having
It was like all you can eat.
having a hell of a time, huh?
Yeah, and I lost all that weight. I really did it because I heard about it on a podcast, and for the mental benefits of it and cancer preventing properties, and then so I decided to try it. I was never into diets. I was the type that would shit on diets, but like, no, you can eat whatever you want. Then I turned like 30, and that all changed, right?
Were you just kind of naturally thin, naturally in decent shape, and then on top of that you exercise, so you just
Yeah.
thought you could eat whatever?
Well, I used to play basketball competitively,
Ah,
so I used to carb up, like, what you were supposed to carb up, eat every 2 hours,
right.
and, protein timing, all that stuff. And I thought I could eat anything. And then I got onto the keto diet, and I'm like, wow, this is a game changer. I used to have a high level of anxiety,
Mm.
and also I used to nap all the time to the point where my parents thought I had a medical issue. And they're like, dude, Chris, why are you sleeping all the time? And as soon as I went keto, all that went away. My energy went through the roof. And I told Victor, I was like, hey, man, you got to get on this thing. This is a game changer.
And when Chris told me, so at first, I was in high school. I was a kid that could eat anything, right? I'm like, oh, freaking large pizza, everything's great. And then I hit to college, and then beer, and then I gained a ton of weight. And I'd tried different diets, so it was like this whole yo-yo thing, right? I'd make progress, and I'd redline because I'd be too aggressive, and then I'd start over. And then I tried keto, and it actually turned out to be the easiest thing that I'd done. And I lost, up to now, I've lost over 40 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Just like melted off.
That's awesome. And you guys have been on Shark Tank, right? I mean, what has that experience been like?
It's been crazy. I think it was awesome because we were able to share our story to more of the world and bring keto to the forefront. And I mean, there was a lot of preparation, and I mean, we went and applied on a whim, and we're like, hey, what do we lose except for a time? We heard about a open casting call
Mm.
at Morongo Casino over in Southern California, and then we're like, hey, let's just go.
So
And
So imagine we're like, all right, hey, let's figure out. We're at this networking conference the night before. We're really tired, and we're like, I think we're gonna be early. Seriously, I think we were like number 1,000 in line, and
Wow.
it was like being on an audition for American Idol, and just it turned into what, like a 12-hour day, just to do the initial pitch to see if we move on to the next round.
You know, it must have felt good to get on that show, and it must have been a cool experience. But at the same time, it must be really, really nerve-wracking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, you try to prep yourself for these things. You're like, okay, there's going to be like a lot of lights, there'll be big cameras, and I'll be in front of like Mark Cuban and these different sharks that I've seen on TV all the time. But then the curtain probably opens up and you get out there and you're turning into M&M, Mom Spaghetti, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We thought we were going to be super confident going in there, and then the doors open up. My heart's beating really fast. Luckily, we had prepared ahead of time. We knew that it was going to be high adrenaline, and we would have to get the words out or pitch out there right. And so we actually took this from Destiny's Child. We call it the Destiny's Child method. So I had actually watched something on MTV, I think, about Destiny's Child, and they would run up a hill. And when they would run up a hill, they would sing. So they would get their heart rate up, and they'd have to get the words out. And I was like, dude, we should totally do that. So we started doing push-ups,
What
kettlebell
Destiny's
swings.
Child song were you guys singing?
That's actually how we make all big business decisions. Like, what would Destiny's Child do?
That's
in
right.
this situation. But yeah, we try to like mimic as many of the things we would feel on the show as possible ahead of time.
Right.
So whether it was drinking espresso, doing sprints, kettlebell swings, whether it was putting tape on our warehouse floor and standing where we thought the judges would stand, we wanted it to be a reflex so that if we somehow froze, it would almost be on autopilot.
Did you almost get that like cold feeling, like where like, you know, I've done stuff like this before, where I went out and wrestled in front of like 10,000 people, and like I prepped for it, you know, I've trained, you know, years for it, and then you get in the ring and like my like legs were gone, you know, like I think all the blood flow was like in my stomach.
Yeah.
And it was just like I felt cold, you know. I don't know if I was cold to the touch, but I felt like I was cold, you know. And I just felt like I was almost not even there. Like felt like an out of body experience. You guys get a little bit of that?
It's like that fight or flight where your body's trying to protect itself, and it's like most important organs, right? So you start to feel cold. Yeah, we got that for sure.
During that time, did instinct kick in for you, or was it? You kind of had to like stop yourself and realize, all right, this is happening. I got to kind of.
Yeah, some of the training helped a lot, you know, and it was professional wrestling, so like there's a lot of little tricks that you can learn along the way. But you know, the beginning of the match is kind of what got the cobwebs out. You know, you kind of hear that in football. You know, like the football team, like a lot of the guys, they need to get like hit before they're like, oh shit, okay, I just got blown up. Now I'm ready. Now I'm, you know, all my fears are gone, because that's just probably hard as I'm going to get hit or whatever. And so this situation was kind of similar, where I was able to kind of like relax into it as it went along. But yeah, at first I was like, oh my God, like only 30 seconds went by and I can't breathe, and we're doing like a 10-minute match. I'm like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I think some of that, at least if I can relate it to this, it's at first, once we say, hey Sharks, and we start our pitch, you just feel like, I felt, it was like I could just see white. I'm going. And then once we finish the pitch and the first question is asked, then I'm like, all right.
Then you get the
I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm here.
Yeah.
Then you got a lot more comfortable with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then from there, you guys have any idea of like what's going to happen in the show? Because like a lot of like, you know, quote unquote reality TV's like kind of scripted, or, you know, they go over stuff with you, or is it kind of just like it all just happens right there, kind of the way you see it presented?
Yeah, I mean, we had no idea. I think we watched a ton of videos of people pitching, and all the questions they asked were like, okay, those are probably going to be the questions that they ask. They're probably going to ask us about our revenue, how long we've been around, and what is our profitability. So we were like, okay, we got to know our numbers. And so we would quiz each other on our numbers and go back and forth. And it'd be like 1 a.m. Sometimes we're leaving like networking events, and I would call Victor up and like, hey Sharks, and then
What's their customer acquisition cost? I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of the Sharks, so the first time you see them is the first time that you're seeing them.
Oh, okay.
So there is no double take, nothing like that. So we
No.
knew that we had to pitch and sell our business in the amount of time that we had.
They maybe have a different area like backstage or something where you don't end up seeing them.
yeah.
Or
So
you
you
just
don't
didn't-
see them, and then they tell you, all right, you're on, and then you go.
Doors
And then
open, and you're just
doors
walking.
open, and you see them, and your heart rate's up, and you're like, oh shit, this is Mark Cuban.
This is
and
really happening
this is really
here.
happening.
Did you guys know who was going to be on the show? Because like they changed them up a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They told us a little bit ahead of time, and then from there we kind of know who's going to be on there, how to be prepared for each one.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you have an idea of like who you were going to try to like solicit or sell the most?
I think
Is that me going off? I don't know. Hope not.
I think for me it was I knew that Mr. Wonderful would ask the toughest questions.
Oh,
so
yeah.
more than that is, all right, how do we make sure we get past him? And actually, we ended up getting an offer from him. But I was really excited about Mark Cuban just because I've read his stuff and just it's almost like a bucket list. I'm there, I'm pitching in front of him. No matter what happens, like I did this part.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah, Mr. Wonderful. He gives out a lot of deals, but unless you're really sharp to business, it's kind of hard to tell what he's giving you. You know, because a lot of times it's he does a lot of those royalty deals, right?
Yes.
Where it's like he's and it's really smart. You know, and I think a lot of times he's given people a really good deal. But I think a lot of times the sound of it, doesn't sound appealing to them because people don't want to give up the money, like at that time. You know, they're thinking it's an investment, and it's always like a roll of the dice. Like you might get paid back, you might, you might not. I think that's the way the investee likes to kind of keep it. You know,
Right.
And
Or-
imagine getting like we're there and then Mr. Wonderful's throwing a deal at us and we're trying to calculate, all right, does this make sense? And then Barbara's throwing a deal and then with the lights on, it's like the lights on you. It's a lot
Right.
to try to calculate.
Yeah, we have no pen and paper where we can write stuff down, take notes, use a calculator. There's no way. So you got to do it all in your head.
And then how did things come to be with A-Rod?
This is cool. I mean, we still are in the discovery process. So, for us, it was great to meet him and see where he's at, where his team is at. And he gets to know more about our business. And it's like a typical, you're courting investors. They want to know more about your business. We want
Right.
to know about the investor and what value add they have to give. So,
Yeah. And I'm sure that like with him, he's probably got, his hands in a lot of businesses or all the sharks really, right? So
Yeah.
they probably like your names probably get kicked up like every couple of weeks and then they kind of check in with you. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they're in, and so we're just part of the picture, and so we're trying to see if it's a good fit for either of us.
And also, I think a big part of it, even when we started the business, is we want to be grateful for where we are, but at the same time, step back and say, all right, what is the best deal? So yes, being on Shark Tank's been amazing, but we also want to make sure that whatever we move forward with is the best thing for Nui.
Right. I've seen a lot of the progress you guys made. You started out with the name Keto Cookie, which was really simple. You guys were on a keto diet and you were trying to abstain and stay away from sugar. And you just basically made your own cookies, right, in the garage? Is that how that's how it came to be, right?
Yeah, so we had no baking experience, and we're like, wow, I really miss cookies. Let's see what we can make. And
Guys that bake, that's a hashtag.
is it really?
Yeah.
We should use that.
All right, we're gonna use that hashtag. Yeah. So then we're like, okay, let's go to my mom's kitchen. I think we need a convection oven. We had no idea what to use it for, but then so we go there.
You're
and
like, what's a convection oven?
yeah, I've heard of that. I think we need to use it. And then we buy our aprons and then, start researching how to make a cookie from scratch. And from there, we're like, okay, that's not keto. That has sugar. That has carbs. And then we replaced it and did our research and just experimented like 20-something tries and got to a cookie that we both thought was tasty. And then we had our friends and family try it. And it's one thing for them to like it and another thing to have strangers like it. So
Right.
So I remember we had a deal. We said, all right, this is going to be officially a business if we sell, I think it was like 7. It was like if we sell 7 cookies to real people, we've got something. So I remember we sell 1 and then 3 and then 5, then 10, then 15. We're like, holy crap. All right, I think we have something here. We were still buying all of our ingredients retail, so we were actually losing money on every order.
Just going to the store.
yeah, we're going to Whole Foods.
Yeah, people, we're a supplier. but still, like it showed us there's a viable business here. People are interested in what we have, and they like the way it tastes. We paused it, decided to do a Kickstarter to do it right.
What was the first cookie? Was it the chocolate chip one?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a chocolate chip. It was funny because we would use like pieces of a chocolate bar that was no sugar, and then they would melt and just turn into just this fudge.
The first bags we sent were like seep with oil. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe we sent this stuff out to people.
Oh, I got some oily packages. Yeah, I remember. I actually think that your original cookies, I think the oil seeped through like whatever it was in, and then on top of that seeped through like the box that it was in.
It's a benefit.
It looked like I got like an order of Domino's pizza or something. You know what I mean?
That's how you know it's keto.
Yeah, it's got all the fats in it. And everything.
Yeah. So that's exactly what it was like at the beginning.
Yeah.
How bad were some of these cookies at first when you first were experimenting? When you're making some are going to be good and some are going to be shitty, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first one, I think it didn't even hold up together. It was like almost like pudding. And no matter how we tried to bake it, it just didn't stick together. And then the other ones came out ugly. And then eventually we found a way. We would manually put chips into the cookies so it wouldn't melt.
Right.
And
we do like 20. It was in his mom's oven, so we would do like 20 cookies at a time. And then when they'd be hot, we'd get the chips and we'd put them in one by one. We're like, man, I don't know how the hell we're gonna progress from this. But yeah, they were pretty crappy.
That's interesting. And then in terms of like trying out all these different things, I mean, it must you must learn certain things react a certain way in your system. You end up with a lot of trips to the bathroom, trying all these different sugar alcohols and all these different kinds of cookies.
So our first cookie with chocolate chips actually had maltitol. And for some of you that don't know maltitol, if you have enough of it, you're going to run to the bathroom.
Right.
And so we quickly found that out. And we also found out that it raised your blood sugar. So we're like, okay, we need to get this maltitol out. And we did all
So along with the cookies, that's how you guys came up with your toilet business.
Exactly. That's our
Reinforced.
And with the toilet.
Yeah, I think so. In the beginning, we have MCT oil, and I'm sure if you have too much MCT oil.
Yeah, well, some people are just sensitive to it. Period. I think.
Yeah. So some of the early batches, we put a little more than we could definitely handle because you're trying all of these cookies, and there was definitely some last minute runs to the restroom for sure.
Yeah.
What was the kind of hardest part of going from like having an idea you're excited about to trying to like, all right, I think we have something. Like, what's the next couple steps that you went through?
Well, one, we were lucky that we were able to connect with other people that have been in business in the food world. And so we asked a ton of questions. So none of us have any experience in the food business or baking. And so we just asked a ton of questions. And to the point where, we might have annoyed some people. But it was like, hey, we just want to learn. We're sponges. And we eventually moved into a commercial kitchen. So we got out of my mom's kitchen, moved into a commercial one. But even that had its speed bumps. Like our first batch, like we put cookies in the oven. We thought, hey, I think this works just like my mom's oven. So same temperature, same time. And then all of a sudden smoke starts coming out and we're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then we run to the oven, like, all the cookies are burnt. People are running in. It's a shared commercial kitchen. So all these people have been in the food business for a while. They come in and we're like, oh man, they probably think we're noobs.
which we were.
Which we were. But you know what? We learned from it. And then each time, it's just a matter of just making a bunch of mistakes and failures and learning from it. And each step has just been a great learning experience for us.
I think a first step is also, I call it pulling the trigger. So many times we want things to be perfect. So when we were making the cookie, it was like, well, it's not good enough yet. It's not good enough yet. It's not good enough yet. But really it was that we were afraid that if we launched it, nobody would want it. So I think the big thing is knowing when to just pull the trigger and learn. So it's more like pull the trigger, fix, pull the trigger, fix. I think that if anybody wants to launch anything new, it's really just about launching it and learning along the way.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to do it, is to don't wait around till you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard people before say, you know what, I want to wait until we're ready to have children. And I'm like, oh my God, like you're gonna die without ever having an offspring because you're gonna be waiting your whole life. You're never gonna be prepared for what this child's gonna bring to your life, both positive and negative. A lot of big changes happen, and the same thing happens when you have a business. So I think it's a really wise thing. It's like, yeah, you want to be prepared, but you're not gonna like really feel like ready. And not everything that you put out. I mean, even Apple does it with their iPhone. I mean, all these companies, these huge companies, they're like, they test it and they do a bunch of stuff with it, and they're like, okay, well, now it just needs to go in the marketplace. Like, that's the next step. It needs to go out in the marketplace, and the customers are going to tell us. And I'm sure you guys gotten a lot of feedback from people, and that's probably led to the repackaging, the rebranding, the changing the flavor profile, coming up with different flavors. I'm sure you get a lot of people that's probably bugging you about, hey, make peanut butter.
Yeah.
And then boom, like you hear it enough times, like, hey, maybe we should look into that, right?
Yeah. I think that's a big thing that has helped us out a lot is we've actually asked the community of like, what do you want, or what do you not like? So in our first iteration when we had malted
Cookie
salt,
dough. Some people want cookie dough.
I think someone does.
Yeah, some people like cookie dough.
Yeah, one of the best things that Mark's ever said, we were talking about like our favorite cookies or whatever, and it usually comes down to chocolate chip, and Mark goes, well, don't ruin that dough by cooking it. Like, don't throw it in the oven, just leave it as is.
Yeah. I think that's our next product coming up.
The cookie dough.
Yeah, we'll work on something.
Yeah.
You were talking about not waiting until things are perfect. Do you have any examples with some of your products where you pulled the trigger and kind of learned as you went along?
Yeah, I think it's been that way kind of from the beginning. The first batch of slingshots I made, they were red just like the ones that I have now, but they turned people's skin red. And I tried to get the dye, and they smelled weird. I don't know, they smell like chemicals. And I tried to get the dye out of it, and I ran it through our washing machine at home. It broke our washing machine, and on top of that, it turned everything in there. It turned the whole washing machine red, and we couldn't really rinse that out very well. And then the product still turned you red. I mean, there's only like 50 of them made or something, a really small amount, and they weren't really what I was looking for. But even with that, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to still put this out. Like, I wasn't selling them. I was handing them out to friends and stuff because I needed to get the feedback.
Yep.
And people were like, well, it smells and it, turning me red, but it does what you say it does, And I was like, okay, my next step is to figure out how to not turn people red. And so there's been a lot of things like that. We'll make products. We test it the best we possibly can. No manufacturer has 100% control over everything. So there could be something wrong. A label could come off or something could happen. But if we see it repeatedly, then we're like, oh, okay, that's a major problem. We got to go back and fix that. We got to get the quality better. And, we have warranties on stuff. So if people have problems, we can exchange them for free, things like that. And so it's, a lot of times, I think people are scared and they put out a product that the customer is going to be really frustrated.
Yep.
If the product's not perfect. But if the product isn't what you say it is, obviously that's a huge problem. Then it's your job to make that right. It's your job to make that better. And the best possible thing that you can do is make the situation right and maybe then some. Mm-hmm. So somebody orders some cookies from you guys and they're all busted or something, right? They're all crumpled up. You send them another box, maybe you send them a shirt, and maybe you send them an additional thing that you guys just created that no one else has tried yet. Say, hey, sorry for the inconvenience. Well, now that person's pumped.
Yep.
And now they went from having this negative feeling about the company, and they were like, shit, man, these guys sell crumpled up cookies. And now they got a much better experience. I think everyone understands, look, no one's going to have 100% accuracy, no matter what business you're talking about. I mean, how many recalls are there on cars every year?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. How long have those companies been in business? So it gives you an opportunity. It's actually a great opportunity to make things right. And the customer's like, you know what? They did me right. I'm going to continue to go with those guys.
You are totally right. I think it goes back to when we were barely starting. There was this lady who was posting on all our social, really upset, like calling, messaging.
We saw her.
Yeah. and the initial reaction is like, all right, let's just make her happy and kind of like let's move on. But we actually like connected with her and said, hey, we're sorry, we feel your pain. She became one of our biggest supporters and one of our biggest customers ever. So it's an opportunity to make those people that are so passionate when they're angry more passionate about you when they're happy.
How do you go from, because this is a huge hurdle for a lot of people, and a lot of times you'll see on social media people, you got to follow your passion. Well, there's somebody right now with a 9-to-5 who's like, fuck that. I can't follow my passion. Mm-hmm. Like, sorry, dude, I can't follow my passion. I got fucking bills to pay. Yeah. I got stuff to do. I got obligations. I got a wife. I got kids, and I have this job. I sell insurance or whatever it is, right? And you'll hear a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll kind of encourage people, yeah, just, quit your job. And, and a lot of people just, they can't just randomly do that. Right. And I think we'd all agree that'd be a giant mistake.
Yep.
Like that's not a good way to do it. However, maybe it's possible that while you're pursuing your quote unquote fortune, that you're working on making a living at the same time. Is that what you guys had to do?
Yeah. In the beginning, I had to like really hustle. So I remember I only had $40 in my bank account, and I was like, what am I going to do? I want to start this tutoring.
This guy's rich, $40.
So before Nui, I had a tutoring company, and when I was starting, I only had $40 in my bank account. So I was like, well, I need a job. I'm like, all right, where am I going to get a easy job where I can have this flexibility to work on this tutoring company? And I went to Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf and said, hey, are you guys hiring? And they're like, well, we have a manager position. Say, hell yeah, I'll do that. And then so I would work, 8 to 4 or 5, and then work on my business after hours and then into the weekend. And it was just, I was continuing to build up my client base, build up. We eventually started hiring other tutors. And
did you get that advice from somebody, or is that something you did instinctively?
I think I wanted to go into something that I was really passionate about, and is at that time is really helping change education. And I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And it was hard because my parents, they immigrated here from the Philippines, and they worked, my dad used to work 4 jobs, and he worked hard and didn't want us to have to struggle and work that hard, but he didn't understand that we were watching him, go through that process, and that we understood what hard work means and what trying to live that dream means. And so I was actually living at home, and they would throw job application after application and say, hey, go apply to this county job, go apply here. And, I would apply just to keep them happy, and then just go back to work on the business. And then I remember I used to lie to my mom. She knows now that I lied to her. But I used to have a +3 rule. So like if I had one family or client, I would add 3 to that number and tell that story. And then so that one student became 4 in my stories, and then 5 became 8. And it just and eventually I didn't have to lie anymore because we had like 150 students. But the biggest part was sharing those wins, and they understood that I was working hard, I was busting my butt. So I think part of it is you just got to believe in what you're trying to do. And sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But for me, I just wanted to just go after it.
Were you in search of do you think that you kind of just, for whatever reason, just have kind of this entrepreneurial spirit, where you were like, you could have potentially landed on some sort of different creation of some sort, like rather than a cookie?
Yeah, I think so. I think for me is about impact. So at that time as education, here it's about, changing people's eating behaviors, and it's a big feat. I'm like, I don't know. I'm attracted to the hard things, things that I thought might be impossible to do, and like changing education. And then with food is like changing how people eat, making it really easy for them to cut out sugar. And I'm just drawn to that. I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to the journey and each step of learning. I learned a ton, especially in this business.
How about for yourself? Like, that kind of, you got this goal that you that you want to somehow work for yourself.
Yeah.
But like, we got to make a living, got bills. You can't tell your landlord like, hey man, I'm working on my passion.
No, yeah,
come back like next month, and I might have the check, but I might not because I'm working on my passion. Like, he's not gonna be like, oh, that's chill, that's cool, you're good.
No. So I believe that it's one of our mentors calls it throwing more punches. I think that if you work on enough business projects, eventually one will work if you treat it like a side hustle. So I was a kid in kindergarten that would buy...
like hitting on chicks.
It's a numbers
Play
game.
that numbers. Play that numbers game,
game. So I remember we didn't grow up with much. So in kindergarten, if I'd ask my dad for money for a toy or something, he'd say, great, find a way to go out and make it. So I'm like, okay.
You're like, huh?
No, so I would buy big bags of candy.
What a cruel father, making you work for it.
So I'd buy big bags of candy, sell them individual pieces door to door as a way to make money. And then I'd like mow lawns, and then I'd wash cars. And it was always something attracted me about being able to create my own future. So in junior high, while I was like in school, I'd be on online forums learning how to build websites, trying to, build businesses online. In high school, I had this like
That's
call
called being a
service
nerd,
provider.
by the way, just in case anybody was confused.
I was a nerd.
Most people don't even know the internet could be used to search stuff.
But the thing is, it was a matter of tries. Every time I learned something else, and I had a day job before I quit my day job for my last business, and it was only because by the time that I quit, I was already making enough money that I could kind of transition over. But it really became the more if you have 10, 20 ideas and you really work on them as a side project, one's gonna work.
Did the money for either one of you have to be equal to or greater than what you were previously making, or did it not matter as much because you kind of knew like, okay, I'm making less, but it really doesn't matter because I'm going to put more time into it, and that's going to create more money for me as well?
For me, it was less. Yeah, I wanted to become a full-time entrepreneur as soon as possible. And I remember I was at my job, and I'm reading this book, and there's a quote that says, "Do that in life which you fear the most." I remember I walk right into my boss's office.
You know what book that is?
Yeah, it's actually for our work week, Tim Ferriss.
Oh, there we go.
So I'm walking in. I walk in. I sit down with my boss, and I said, "You know what? I just give my 2 weeks." And I remember this like feeling of panic sets in. I'm like, "Holy shit! I just got married a month ago. I should have probably talked to my wife." It was so instinctive.
I can picture your boss like going, "Give me that goddamn book," and he throws it out the. It's like the third person that quit that day. He just fucking heaves it out the window.
But it was at that moment, it was scary to do it, and it wasn't as much, but it did have momentum. It wasn't just some hey, I'm going to start something. It had something that had traction already.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's important, that people do try to follow like a dream. They have a big goal, but at the same time, you don't want to send the wrong message and have this goal or dream that like may never happen. It might be this thing that's maybe it's a little too far fetched. Like maybe you're not. Like maybe you don't have the work ethic currently to even get to where you're thinking about. For you guys, it sound like you guys both, I mean, coming out of the gate, sound like you're both pretty hard workers. But has that intensity picked up? Have you like learned discipline? Have you learned work ethic? Have you learned even like willpower? And has this stuff kind of grown with you guys as you've gone into this business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think changing what I ate made a huge difference. I didn't understand that, your mental clarity could go up as you change what you ate. And that was part of it. I never thought I could meditate. So Victor's the one that got me into meditation. And,
Everybody just thinks it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, Victor, what are you doing meditating, dude? What are you doing?
I know. And I'm the type that I'm always thinking about stuff, I'll go down this rabbit hole, and then you'll say something and I'll think about something else, and I was like, there's no way I can meditate for like 10 minutes. And then Victor's like, hey, just try 1 minute, and then so I did 1 minute, and I did 2 minutes, and
3 or 4 minutes seems like hours, right?
Yeah.
It does.
And then even just like finding time to work out, just for the cognitive benefits, is fitting that in the morning so I can just work out hard, feel good throughout the day, and just feel pumped throughout the day just to get things going. But definitely discipline. And I mean, dude, Victor's like the king of discipline because he has 2 kids and he's able to manage all of this with that,
Thanks, man. I mean, if I look back, I think that what helped is habits, right? Because we get to a point where Chris and I, we can't work harder. Like there are no more hours in the day. So it's like, what are the habits and the routines that you do daily, and how do those kind of funnel what you do? And a big part is honestly prioritization. It sounds cliche, but if we only have so much time, then what we can change is what we choose to do. And if we're able to focus on high impact decisions, that moves the needle. So if I kick this ball and it goes 70 yards versus kicking one 5 yards 10 times, I'll make more progress finding that one ball to kick that'll get to 70 yards.
That makes a lot of sense. You were mentioning having, the food really make a lot of changes for you. And you mentioned mental clarity, but like, what are some other things that you noticed from it, like specifically?
Yeah, decrease in anxiety. So like I mentioned before, I used to nap every single day, at least once, most likely twice. And like
2 hour.
it was like an hour, 2 hours, and I was known as the napper in my family. Like
Like a teenager
yeah,
into your early 20s or something like that.
yeah, yeah. Like I would just nap in random places. I'd nap on the floor. I'd be on a coffee table and I'd just like take a nap. I did that in college actually, and
Like, oh man, I'm so tired.
yeah, and I
It's like
didn't.
you're tired from being tired, you know. You're like that. Yeah, if I sleep in, I feel exhausted. I mean, it feels good to do it once in a while, but I still kind of feel groggy and tired from it almost.
Exactly, and I didn't understand that there was another reality. You know, it was like stepping out of the matrix, and like, wow, this is how great energy feels like. I've never experienced it like this, and I just got hooked on it, and then started looking into other areas of nutrition, trying to figure out how I can use it as my tool, as my my weapon.
I feel
Weapon.
sometimes like I'm like a maniac, and that there's not that many people speaking the same language, but there's more and more now. There's more and more people, you know, and I don't want to discount, you know, anything that anybody's born with, but at the same time, I strongly feel that diet and exercise can fix just about anything. And there's other people that will go as far to say that, look, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, like people know that through food you can fight against ever having diabetes, at least type 2 diabetes. And people kind of understand, like, through nutrition you can manage heart disease a lot better. But there's people that will say that with proper nutrition and exercise, that you can completely eradicate those diseases from the planet. And I don't know if I would go that far, because I think that sometimes we're born with certain genetics. You know, we're dealt certain cards, and you know, maybe you can't overcome everything. But I think I'm hearing so many people talk about depression and anxiety, and I don't want to ever. I don't think I've ever dealt with it the way that other people have. So I don't want to like undersell something that I never truly felt. But I still think I can't imagine a scenario where diet and exercise doesn't at least help.
Yep.
Maybe it doesn't do everything, but I can't imagine where it doesn't at the very least help. And I'd love to see more people really give it a shot. Mm-hmm. And I think that there is room for medication in this world, and I think that medication does make sense. And it would be foolish for someone just to randomly go off medication that a doctor and some people agreed upon. However, I think that medication it's a bridge that you can utilize that bridge for a gap in your life for a period of time where maybe things aren't right. Maybe you have bad cholesterol, maybe you have high blood pressure, and maybe you do need these medications. But while you're on those medications, why don't you further educate yourself into diet, into nutrition? Why don't you learn maybe there's some things you can do, and then maybe you can take less of that medication, and maybe you can be off of it. But I'm hearing there's too many young people that are really suffering from depression and anxiety, and I would hope that they at least give it a good shot with some different diets. Even a carnivore diet sounds crazy. All I do is eat meat. But what if you could, and I know it's a tough task, but what if you're in pain, or what if you have some severe heartache, or you can't get out of bed and you're just not living a great life? You're sad. You know, what if your food, it's a daily battle, but what if your food was the key ingredient in the whole thing and you didn't know? Yeah. Like, what if that food was making you sick? What if that food is making you sad? I mean, I know for myself that, you know, when I go off my plan, even before I got like real deep into this, that it would throw me sideways. I wouldn't feel great about myself. I'd want to sleep in. I can't imagine, you know, mixing that with already having maybe some genetics that where your anxiety's high, or just, you know, your coping skills are maybe different than the next person. So I always try to advise that here on the show, because I just think that it's something I keep hearing more and more about. And I just keep hearing people, they get medication from the doctor, and like I said, I think that's fine, but I think that in addition to that, they should try to be actively doing something about it.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, when I've had like funks, I call them funks. I notice that if I look back to what's going on, I'm not eating the way I should, and I'm not working out the way that I should. And the moment that I go to the gym, or maybe like a cold shower, something to kind of shock your system, it really makes a big difference.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah. yeah, over the holidays was like a test, right? So it's like, all right, I'll have a few more carbs here and there, and then I'd have some mashed potatoes, and then I was just out at a watching Wicked with my wife, and then all of a sudden I start feeling very tense. Like my shoulders are really tense, my heart rate's going up, and I'm like, dude, why do I feel really anxious right now? And I'm like, all right, no more carbs. I'm gonna cut this out. And the next day, I just went off of it, and I felt so much better. It was like night and day between us how I was feeling it. And I think it's a huge thing that we need to figure out as a society is how do we get people to one just really focus on nutrition. I know we have education. At the same time, how do we make it very easy for people? And we just got to make it really easy, especially with food, making it very available. I mean, that's what we try to do with cookies because we're like, shoot, what are people's.
Figure out a way to make it as convenient as possible.
Yep.
And we're starting to see a little bit more of that. Like we grabbed some In-N-Out burger for you guys today, and you just go and you order it animal style or the Flying Dutchman, and they know what that means, and you just get meat and get no bun. Like there's more and more places like that. I think some places where you go to that have a low carb option. I know, like some of the bigger chain places for a long time, they've had, menus that have, all this stuff in this category has 500 calories or less, or whatever. And of course, no one wants to look at that when you go to like Applebee's or something. But at least there's starting to be some movement, towards that. At least we're starting to see more of that. Even on an airplane where they serve food, a lot of times they're serving you on a flight, the long flight where they serve food. A lot of times they're still serving you like a meat-based something or other. So there's like a chicken or a steak or it's not just mac and cheese or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think even Chipotle is offering, like, I haven't been yet, but lifestyle bowls. Did you hear about that?
No.
I think it's like paleo and keto bowls now. So it's becoming more and more available.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, and I've always thought that too when it comes to Mexican food. It's like they have a lot of great options already sitting right there.
Yep.
But then everything kind of gets blended together, and now we have some outrageous calorie amount that we're
wrap it in a flour tortilla, make it a burrito, and fry it.
right.
Yeah.
But Chipotle kind of makes it easy because you can kind of go in and select, and at least like we can make arguments about like eating out, and you got these different vegetable oils, but like in my opinion, that's not where the fight is. I don't think it's worth sitting here and nitpicking everything that somebody does about whether a vegetable is healthy or whether a fruit is healthy or whether steak is healthy. It's like, come on, man. Like let's just agree that there's a lot of junk out there and it's problematic for people. People have a hard time with controlling it, and any diet that you try to follow, that's always going to be the key word is going to be figuring out how to have some sort of control.
Yep.
I think that there are some really cool benefits to fasting and things like that, but I don't think that just because you fast, you can eat 40% more calories, and just because you do keto, I don't think you can eat 40% more calories. So I just think that hopefully there's going to continue to be more, companies like you guys, and hopefully you guys get into making other stuff too, to continue to make stuff more convenient for people.
Yeah. We're focused on cookies for the short term, but we're definitely open. Our mission is to make it easy for people to cut out sugar. And we chose sugar because we see sugar as the lead domino, right? So you look at paleo, you look at a lot of these, like what is really the main issue, at least the way we see it is sugar. So if it fits within that mission, we're open to exploring it.
Yeah, and you have some people that will say, it's not really sugar, and America has cut back on sugar. But I think it's all bullshit. I think that someone like Lane Norton, he'll say, the majority of calories in a donut come from fat. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we realize that it's fried, it's fried. But anything that's fried, any snacks of any kind, and any desserts, like if people could just get rid of those three things, that would be a major win. And I think, when we're talking about sugar, now you guys follow a specific style of diet, a ketogenic diet, which doesn't really allow for much carbohydrates at all, unless you've been doing it for a while, then you can start to add some in. But, there's a lot of different types of carbohydrates you can consume. There's a lot of different types of sugar you can consume. And I think that it would be foolish for us to go way out of our way and say, hey, don't eat an apple, don't eat a banana, don't eat an orange, and, because again, what you're saying, by making it convenient, if we share this idea of like, hey, let's have balance, I don't think that's a good idea either. Because when we tell people to have a balanced diet, their version of balance is not a very good one. They're not good at balancing that way. But when they have some more options thrown into the mix, maybe after they've gone on a diet for a period of time or after they've shown some control, now we're starting to head in the right direction. Because maybe somebody that gets ready for a bodybuilding show, maybe somebody that is really needs to lose weight, maybe they're not consuming Quest bars and keto cookies. Maybe they're using food first, and then they're starting to add some things back in as they kind of move along their journey. What are some of your thoughts on that for both of you guys, on like cheat meals and some of these different things? When you guys are kind of in the zone, or when you guys are communicating with people about this style of diet, do you try to like show some restraint with some cheats, or is it like just enjoy yourself?
I try to show restraint just because I know once I have like a donut, right, it's gonna trigger some sort of like crave for another thing, and so I just, as much as possible, try to stay away from that. If anything, I'll have like a cheat. Like if it's a cheat, if it's not a cheat day, it would be a cheat meal, or we call it a yes meal, where if it's worth. So I think what I've learned from this process is the carbs got to be worth it. Like. I value carbs a lot more now than I used to, and it's like I'll eat something, I'm like, okay, that wasn't worth the carbs, or I'll eat it, I'm like, okay, that was good.
Dude, I went through that with Christmas cookies, and I ate about 50 of them, and I was like, none of these are worth it, damn it. And I kept eating one after another, and I was like, all these suck, but I still ate like the whole. I didn't just take a bite of each one. I just kept going on and on.
It's a thing. It's not very satiating, right? It just keeps going and going. So like as much as possible, I try not to go down that route. But occasionally, I'll slip up. But I think part of it is also this idea of being okay with it, like self-forgiveness. I think for people that are using it as a coping strategy, they're like, oh, I already gave in. I might as well eat the whole pizza.
Makes you feel worse.
I had one slice. I might as well eat the whole pizza. And it's just saying, okay, this is okay. I'm allowing this for myself, and after this, I'm moving on to getting back on track. And once we get into that mindset, I think it's going to make it a lot easier for people to transition in and out. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah. So when I'm talking to people that are interested, let's say, in getting on the diet, I feel that if I frame it in a way that you're never going to be able to have X, Y, Z, it scares them from even trying. So I don't recommend a cheat meal or a cheat day or whatever in the very beginning. I think once you get momentum, it's okay because it releases some of the pressure valves. So for me, it's more like psychologically, how do you get people to want to stick to it? And at least I know myself personally, if I know that I'm never, ever going to be able to enjoy whatever my indulgence is, it'll just make it hell. So
you might not buy into it at all.
Exactly.
Might not even try it.
So how do you get them to start notice some results? And then, by that point, they might not even want them anymore. But as long as you frame it like, hey, it isn't you are going to be able to have something every once in a while, I think it makes it easier for people to try it.
I think it's a huge component of diet is just to not give up. Just keep trying. Like whatever the goal is. Most of the time we're just talking about management of weight, or even trying to lose weight, and you're going to have some sort of control over the diet that you selected. You're going to figure out some sort of overall food. There's some sort of control over the foods that you're eating. And a lot of times when there's bread and pasta and sugars and things like that, it's hard to control. You just really want to just eat all of it. It's so much easier. I have 2 kids, and then in addition to that, I got some nieces and nephews, and so there's like about 5 kids around me almost at all times. And our nieces and nephews, they're young, and they're, all under the age of 10. And even my own kids, they did this a lot when they were younger, not so much anymore. But, they kind of pop in and out of the kitchen. They'll say, hey, can I have just like whatever snack we have. Hey, can I have a Chex Mix or something like that? And we'll say, no, you can have yogurt. And they'll go, oh, I'm not hungry. And you're like, oh, okay. And so I think hunger is actually a key component to diet that I don't hear enough people talking about. I think that you should be hungry. And going through some of this fasting and stuff that I'm doing right now, it's really showing me, and I'm learning a lot from it. I'm learning that like this is totally normal. Your body should be hungry. And then when you're hungry, it's interesting. It's interesting how you act when you're hungry, but you're still trying to stick to a plan. Like I saw my wife last night chow down on a ribeye like I've never seen before in my life. She could have sucked that thing to a straw. Can I get a hey now? But I mean, it's because she was fasting, and it's like, well, now, and you said you place a lot more value on those carbs. Well, when you fast and then you go to eat again, and for us, we're doing a carnivore diet as well. So that's like our only option, but we value that meal so much. And we not only value it, but we look forward to it. That's like you're dying, you're really craving it. And I think that's a good spot for people to be in. And I've been thinking about this a lot, because any diet I've ever really been on, I never really craved the diet food that I was eating. With the exception of doing some keto stuff. And there's been times, at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, just like anybody else, after you eat dinner, that's when that sharp craving really hits you. And many times I've just get up and I'll make like an omelet. I'll make like an omelet that's predominantly like egg yolks. I'll throw some cheese in there or some bacon. Now that's a ridiculous amount of calories that I definitely don't need, but at least I didn't go off the deep end. Or I'll reach in and grab one of your cookies, or a Quest bar or something like that, or something, or even for a while I was doing just small pieces of dark chocolate. Like I like dark chocolate, but I don't like it as much as milk chocolate. Yeah. And so therefore I'd eat, maybe this Bo Jackson rookie card's worth of chocolate, and I'd be done with it. And it's like, how many carbs is that? 10, 15? Yep. Not a huge deal, right?
Definitely.
Do you notice a difference between the hunger when you're eating more carbs than the hunger than when you're off of it? Because like for me, when I was on carbs, I was like, it was like almost like it was shouting hunger. And then when I went off of it, it was like, okay, you're hungry, and it's not as intense.
No, it's a huge difference, and now fasting is like not even, it doesn't feel like it's difficult at all. I mean, it's a little bit annoying, because like I'd love to go with you guys and go grab some food and like sit down and chat, but as entrepreneurs, you also learn that's not even that productive anyway. Like you're better off either not eating anything or just having some like coffee or something, because if you're eating, you're not really talking. But other than like the social aspect of it, it's just definitely not hard at all. But I know what you're saying. When your body's used to running on sugar, there's the great advantage of carbohydrates is that they are a fast acting energy source. The bad part about sugar is that it's a fast acting energy source, and so when that energy source starts to run low and your blood sugar starts to go down, then you start to become like a psychopath about your food. You're trying to tell me something, he's trying to tell me something, Andrew's trying to tell me something, and all I can think about is food. Fuck you guys, I'm going to eat. Or I'm just being short, or I'm being like agitated. I actually have been sharing this with people as well. This is kind of more of a side note than anything, but if you feel agitated, you feel moody, you're not feeling yourself, and sometimes when that happens, a craving will hit you, and you're like, man, I just need a glass of wine, or I need, I'm just going to eat a sandwich or whatever, right? And that thought gets in your mind. But when that hits you, and this is going to sound like the biggest load of bullshit you've ever heard in your life, but I'm telling you, it works. Go on a walk. Just wherever you're at. Just, if you have a conference call, you got something that's going on in a couple minutes, and you feel like you can't do that, go on the walk while you're on the call. Get your body moving. And I've done this before, and I had a lot of success with it. If you go for a walk and you're still pissed off or still just not yourself that day, or you're upset or whatever it is, walk more, and you'll be surprised. It'll go away. Just the act of walking is enough movement to kind of knock back some of these either negative thoughts that you're having or these cravings that you're having, and it will set you, and then plus it's going towards all your goals to lose weight or manage your weight, and it's been very productive.
I'll give that a try. What's your current fasting protocol?
So every other day I fast. I do I call it like a full fast, which is just I'm allowed to have water and coffee, and I don't put anything in the coffee. And then every other day I'll do a liquid fast, and I can put some stuff in the coffee. I try to pay attention to that too, because that can get out of control really fast. And I have bone broth, and I put some stuff in that bone broth, and usually in the coffee and the bone broth, it's usually just butter, could be coconut oil, MCT oil, salt, and that's usually or sometimes an egg. I might put an egg in the. I've actually put eggs in coffee too. It actually is really good. So what I do is I microwave, whatever I'm going to eat. I get it like boiling, and I just dump it on top of an egg. I've done that with coffee and with. It sounds disgusting, but I blend it up in my Ninja blender, and the thing just goes bonkers. It goes. It goes crazy like 4 o'clock in the morning, and wake up everybody in the house. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. And then normally the fasts, they last somewhere between 18 to 24 hours or so. But yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot. What's up with your meditation? How often do you do that?
I do it daily, 20 minutes. So I try to do it right after I work out, just because it helps. I guess it helps me get into like a deeper state of meditation. It depends. I like to kind of play around. I'll use the Oak app, or I have an app called Brain.fm, which sends like waves.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's like a meditation state, and
I've used that for sleep before. It works pretty good.
Yeah, or I'll do that for like focus. If I'm gonna work, I'll like hit that station.
You ever do that, Andrew? Those
I was
weird.
reading a comment. What was that?
It makes those weird ass noises. What's it called?
Brain.fm.
Oh, it's not like the ASMR type stuff, right?
It might be. It's like brrr, and
Yeah,
it's like making all kinds of weird.
It's like different waves, and it kind of alters your state. It's pretty cool. I use it to meditate.
I haven't messed around with any of that stuff because I'm just like him. I just overthink everything. If I have time to sit alone by myself for a minute, I'm thinking a million miles per hour.
No, I'm the same way. I guess that's why I like to do it right after a workout, just because it helps the mental chatter kind of calm down a little bit.
That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, but it helps a lot.
Where did you when did you start meditating, and why?
For anxiety. Anxiety, and especially starting a business, there's a lot going on. But I read there's this blog called zenhabits.net, where it's all about like simplicity and meditation. And then like in a world where so much going on, kids running around a business, I'm like, I crave the calm, the simplicity. And I started honestly with 1 minute. So I have to find a trigger. So after my shower, I would sit on the toilet for a minute, time myself, and do it for a week. Like, a minute? Easy.
Right.
And then, okay, next week, 2 minutes, then 5, then 10, and it's stuck. And I've used that for any other habit. Like, make it ridiculously easy so it's almost laughable if you don't do it. Ramp up, and it sticks.
Right. And people can apply that same method to anything in life. I mean, you can apply that same method to your food. Yep. And this is something I used to train a lot of people, and I'd say, they're like, man, I just really can't diet. And I'd say, okay, well, it sucks that you haven't had a good experience with it, but I bet you that you could. I said, do you think you could, do better with one meal? Can you eat a healthy meal? And they're like, I eat a healthy meal every day. Like, okay, well, what meal is that? And they'll say lunch. I have like a salad. And then I'll kind of find out they use a lot of dressing. And so I'll kind of correct them a little bit and say, okay, well, that's a really good start. And then I'll say, okay, we know that you can do one meal. Do you think you can do a day? Do you think you can do one day? And I've actually had people lose weight this way. I'm like, okay, well, there's 7 days in a week. And let's have you eat healthy more days than you don't. But on the other days, you can't just go hog wild either. You got to like at least pay attention a little bit, but you can still kind of eat what you normally eat. And I told them to avoid bagels and donuts and some of these things. Sure enough, they lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, because it's not hard. It's not hard to just do something for a little bit, right? And I like what you said right there, like make it so easy that it's laughable. And I think I want to get more people to that spot where, not only are things sounding easier, but the things that are sounding easier are actually fucking hard. That's where we need to get people to be. Somebody says, hey, I want you to do 100 push-ups at the end of your workout. You want to be like, 100 push-ups. Why don't you give me a real workout? You know what I mean? Like you want them to start to really crave, things that are difficult. You kind of mentioned that earlier, kind of leaning into things that are tough. And I think that that's a really great place to be. Where did you learn about meditating, or is it just, you just kind of heard from somebody else or
Yeah,
book or something?
Yeah, it's
I mean, it's been around forever, obviously. But
no, but I mean the habit of books and podcasts, right? So just always trying to figure out how to improve. When I was a kid, my dad would give me self-help books in junior high. So I was always trying to figure out, like analyzing myself. All right, how can I improve?
Were
this?
you
How can I
into
improve
that, or you're like, my dad's weird?
No, I was actually into it because
That's
like
cool.
I'm in my head a lot, so I was thinking, always looking for ways to improve different aspects.
It
of
was
myself.
either that or you were a weird kid and your dad's trying to like, hey, give me little hints here and there.
Probably both.
So I listen to a lot of like, podcasts and kind of like self-help almost type stuff when I'm in my car.
Yep.
My car is my classroom, and I it doesn't matter where I drive. Even just my short drive from my house to Starbucks, which is probably 2 minutes, I will not leave my driveway until I get something on where I can try to learn something. It might even be repetitive. It might be something I just heard the other day or something, but I like to just try to continually learn, continue trying to educate myself. And a lot of times my son's, in the car with me, and I can tell like when I'm listening to something cool that has a good message, then he doesn't put his headphones on. But but if I'm listening to something that's bugging him, then he'll put his headphones on. The other day we were driving, and this guy was talking about his kids eating broccoli. He's like bragging about his kids eating real healthy. Out came the headphones. Like, boom. But like normally he'll listen to it, and actually he interacts with it a lot, and he'll ask me questions. I'll like pause it and talk to him, and he'll be like, wow, does it really work that way? Like you can really just, it might be somebody having the message of, you can choose to be happy. Yeah. You can choose to be sad. And then he'll be like, well, wait, aren't some people just sad? And like, well, yeah, there are people that are more depressed than other people. And there are people that have more sad things happen to them. But really, it's all about how you interpret the things that come at you, and you can choose. And there's nothing wrong with being sad. It's actually, there's got to be a reason why we have the emotion, right? There's a reason why we have the emotion of being sad. There's a reason why we have the emotion of being mad. And it's okay to end up in those spots here and there, because then it makes being in a good place feel that much better. But you probably shouldn't hang out there all the time. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And and that whole habit you have of just listening to the book, or it's just as you're talking about it, my kids just turned 4, so we're listening to like Baby Shark in the car, but I do want to get to that point. I think it's great. It's like a way that you can kind of ingrain your habits in your kids.
How do you, because you have a lot of, you've developed a lot of beliefs, around like diet, exercise, and how to live a life. And, I think about growing up, I remember my parents, like, they would repeat certain things over and over again, but sometimes, it just go in one ear out the other. How do you, like incorporate some of what you believe into your family, and how do you get them to buy into it?
Yeah, it's amazing. The stuff that I learn and the stuff that I acquire from meeting with, other people that kind of are seeking out a better life. It's not for everybody in my family all the time. And I have to try to recognize like where's that line, and am I going to offend somebody if I start piling it on too thick, because I do have some beliefs that I don't outwardly share, because everyone would immediately think I'm an asshole. Like I think, like eating bad food and shit. Like I just think it's a weakness, and then other people will get upset and say, well, some people have, and I'll just say, look, okay, that's just it's my opinion, it's my view. And I've had a lot of weakness in my life before, and I've done that before. I've eaten that way before. I've been 330 pounds, so I know something about it, but it is something where, I've heard messages before of like, it's important to matter to people, right? But you have to be really careful on who you're trying to matter to. I think once you go outside your home, then you're broken. I think you're looking for the wrong thing. I think it's almost like somebody eating unhealthy food. You think that that's going to help you, but it doesn't help your position at all. It might have been a release for something because maybe you're on a diet for a long time or something, but it doesn't do what you thought it was going to do. Cheating on your girlfriend, cheating on your spouse, it doesn't. What are you going to? Now what? Or now you're going to spend the rest of your life with that person, or and I think that it's really important that you, at night you lock your doors, right? You check all your doors, check your windows, stuff like that. You lock everything up. Some people even have a security system, and you're blocking everybody out. I think that's what you have to do with your life. You kind of block a lot of people out. So what I learned over a period of time was I'm learning all these really cool, valuable lessons, but is this for my daughter who's, 10, 11, or is this is this way too far down the road for me to have this conversation, whether it's way too serious, and then I can also kind of try stuff here and there. Like if they have a certain issue or a certain thing comes up, then I can share something with them. That's something that I learned that applies to what they're going through at the moment. And I can say, hey, did you know that this can really work this way? And if I see their eyes kind of lighten up and they're paying attention, I might, go down that road further. But if I go to say something and they're like, hey, are we going in and out? Then I'll be like, okay, well, that's obviously not working. But I think you have to be careful with kind of who you give that full court press to, and who you kind of drop some of the hints in, casually. With my mom, my mom's lost a lot of weight. She's lost about 80 pounds now, I think.
Wow.
We got her to start walking and all this stuff. But I never really sat down with her and had a conversation of hey, you got to lose weight. She's always known that she's had to lose weight. And so I was always like, well, when the time's right, this will all kind of just unfold the right way. And she did it on her own. She was like, hey, I want to read your book. She's like, I read it when you first put it out, but she's like, I didn't apply it. So I want to read it again. I was like, oh, okay, great. Gave her a book, and then she's been on her way ever since. So a lot of times things have to come from within. I can preach stuff to you, but I don't know how much it's going to really connect or really make a difference. And then on top of all that, some people will listen to something, they'll get information or they get educated on something. And you'll hear people say this quite a bit. They'll say, you know what, I read that book it's like the 4-hour work week. Somebody might be like, I read that book 5 times, and man, it gets better every time I read it. And you're like, how is that possible? How does it get better every time you read it? Well, it doesn't get better every time you read it. And you're not really noticing things that you didn't notice before. What's happened is the book didn't change, obviously. You changed, and your perspective on those words have changed. And then those words will mean certain things to you at certain times. And so that's why you can't really, be in class 103 when someone else needs 101, right? You can't be kind of coaching above, who you're communicating with. So it can be a hard thing because I feel like I have a lot of knowledge that can really help. But at the same time, maybe it could really hurt. Like if someone's not ready to hear some of these things, or if somebody doesn't want me up their ass about their diet or their sleep, or, people that kind of need to go through their own stuff, and something I've tried to say on this show a lot is just tell people hey man, I do that for a living. I help people with that. And if you ever want something, I'm right here, man. Anytime I'll help you. Just kind of reassure them that you're there. Yeah. Especially if they bring it up, if they're like, man, I'm getting too fat, or this or that's happening, then I think that's a good time to kind of put that in there. But I try not to. It's hard. I try not to push stuff on people that aren't listening.
Yeah, and I think also just having fun with it. The next person I see yawning on it, be like, dude, I talked to this guy named Chris. He started a whole cookie company with his buddy. He used to take naps every single day, and then blah, blah, blah. They were on Shark Tank. You watched Shark Tank, right? It's like, yeah. Did you watch this episode? It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I do remember that. It's like, yeah, he had a hard time with yawning and sleeping all day long too. He switched to a ketogenic diet, and now it's 9-day difference. So kind of, I don't want to say making it a bigger deal than it actually is, right, especially if they're kind of hesitant, but just finding something to make it more, like a bigger deal than it actually is. Because it's like, oh, this guy knows it. And it's like, dude, you're, whatever baseball fan. And it's like something that they can find that they can relate to, or, like just think that it's, oh my gosh, that's freaking cool. What kind of diet was it? And that sort of thing, And I do stuff like that with my daughter, like we had Brooke Entz on here who was, she was a dancer. And, my daughter's getting into dance. And I'm like, look, that's where she started. And now she's in Wonder Woman. It's like, it's crazy. You just do something to catch someone's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want people to be excited,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You want people to be fired up.
I think you brought up a great thing is about storytelling as well. As like, that's one way to break people's habits is using storytelling as a way to get in there, into their mind and letting them be open to the information. So like just sharing like, oh, I heard so-and-so lost like 40 pounds on this diet,
Yeah.
You're not really telling them to go on it, but you're like, hey, this is like, it's melting off. They're feeling better. And they're like, oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And maybe, rather than saying, hey, like, I know this person that lost a bunch of weight, maybe it's more like, somebody's frustrated and they're like, man, I don't have time to work out. And I feel bad. Like I'm just not feeling great. Maybe the story that you share is, hey, you know what? I actually ran into somebody the other day. They're a mother of 3. They work 2 jobs. They just lost 30 pounds. They joined the gym a couple months ago. They changed their diet up and they said they used to be depressed. They used to be X, Y, and Z, and now they're feeling the complete opposite. Now it's like, well, maybe that person totally relates to that story because maybe those were all the hurdles that they were listing. Just as we had a guy on yesterday. Or was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah, we had a guy on yesterday who's a fan of the show, and he was just sharing his experience with, switching over to a different diet and losing a lot of weight. I think he weighed 280 at one point, and now he's like 210, and he's actually getting ready for a bodybuilding show, so he's like completely shredded. But he has he's got like a 40 or 50 hour work week going on himself. So he's somebody that I wanted to bring on the show, give people perspective, because then people might look at me and they might look at you guys and like that's your job. Your job. This is part of your job. You got these cookies, that you're trying to share with people that they don't have sugar. And for me, like obviously this is a huge part of what I do, and they're just gonna be like, oh, of course Mark's in shape. He's got money. He doesn't have to worry about that, and he can just go lift whatever he wants. And that's kind of the thought process. And so I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, if people think that, then let's bring on examples of other people that are they're not to where I'm at, and they're still managing to figure out ways of dropping weight and being better.
Yeah, and also it gives people an opportunity because Mark's basically our plan, basically our mission is to make the world.
Don't tell them everything.
It's okay. Well, this is the last thing, and everything else is top secret. The mission is to make the world a better place to live. Okay, and so a fan of Mark might see Mark and be like, "Oh my gosh, that guy's huge! Like he's awesome!" Blah blah blah. I'm nobody, but I can follow Mark. They'll be afraid to post like an Instagram picture or whatever it is. But someone like my fiance, she looks way different than Mark. Thank goodness. Somebody can relate to her and that can't relate to Mark. So, she's following a ketogenic diet. Mark's always been messing around with keto. It just grabs a totally different audience. Yep. Whereas she's talking to moms or females, whatever, and he's talking to big jacked hairy dudes, but it's all
that's my space.
Yeah, it's all about the same diet though, right? So it's just kind of weird how what he's saying is like he spread to one person, that person's going to spread to other people, and then like we're all together going to make this world a better place to live. It's freaking cool.
Love it.
Yeah. So like, again, with your guys like trying to get rid of sugar, it's like, dude, you guys are going to inspire so many more people to even just follow that lifestyle just because, oh, I can still have this chocolate chip cookie. Yeah. It's like, dude, imagine what that's going to, it's going to erupt into something even bigger.
Well, it could have helped somebody hang on to their diet. Which in turn is helping save their life, which is wild, right? Like it's, I know you guys, it started out with you guys making it for yourself, which I think is an important message though too. Like a lot of people will think that, sometimes when you do stuff out of like being selfish, that's problematic. But I started my gym for the same reason. I knew I couldn't do it myself, and I wanted to, I still wanted a more convenient way than trying to go to like 24-hour fitness and try to figure out how to power lift there without seeming like a maniac and dropping the weights and getting kicked out and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, I'd love to have my own space, and then it'd be great to be around other like-minded people that understand the goal and understand the mission. So it was built off of, me just having this necessity to want to do this stuff at a higher level. And it sounds like it's kind of the same thing for you guys with the cookies, right?
Yeah, well, and what helps too is you're at least serving one customer,
Right.
right? And you're not the only one that thinks the way you do, but at least you can serve that one customer right, as opposed to, well, in business, right? It's like, that's my target market. Let me learn about them. I don't know anything about them. Well, you know yourself, and there's other people like you, and I think it makes it easier to build something that other people are going to want.
And it's awesome to hear the stories from other folks, from the fans, like how much it has changed your lives, from lifting to even eating our cookies. I think one of the biggest things is like getting messages from people who have diabetes who are like, man, you're like you're literally saving my life.
That's huge. They can't enjoy sweets, and then now you give them alternatives.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's like before I was about to go into Chips Ahoy, and I found your cookie, and thank you so much. And it just that's what makes it worth it for us, is like hearing those stories, and it just fuels our our mission. And no matter how hard this thing is that we're trying to build, like it's awesome just to hear those stories.
Go ahead.
Do you guys ever think you'll make like an Oreo cookie?
That might be in the top secret.
Oh, my bad.
in our master
No.
plan.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely something that we always try to make it fun. So what is something that is iconic, and then how do you make it low carb and low sugar and delicious?
That's awesome.
Exactly. How's it easy, and how can we make it taste good? We don't want it to be good for a healthy, quote unquote, item. How can it just taste good?
Yeah. So did you guys have any like formal education as far as like nutrition or like anything like that?
I didn't. I mean, I was competing in basketball, and I would just read books on nutrition, nutritional timing, like protein timing, but I never really got super into it where I would take a class or anything like that. And so, but once I experienced what I felt, I got more curious of like, okay, why is this the way it is? And as soon as I started talking to more people that were on the diet, it just became a rabbit hole of trying to find out, okay, how come people are some people that weren't able to walk before because their body they had this like syndrome where the body would eat their muscles up. And looking for glucose, and then they would go on keto, and they were like, oh yeah, I ran like within a month. I'm like, that's insane. There's no way that could happen. And then talking to people like we met this family whose son had cancer, inoperable brain cancer at 4 years old, and he went on the ketogenic diet, and now he's 10 years old, and we were celebrating with him on his birthday, and it was really cool to see all these different stories. And at some point, these stories are hard to ignore. You can say, oh well, there's not enough research, but at some point, some of the a lot of these stories are just so prevalent and and powerful that you can't ignore them.
Yeah, we've walked over it twice now. What basketball competitiveness or whatever, what level did you get to? Like, it's been killing me.
I was in the NBA, and no. So,
oh my God, it's Jeremy Lin this whole time.
That was me. No. So I went over to the Philippines to play ball for about a year. It was something that was eating at me. Like, I need to go try it. Otherwise, I won't know if I could have made it or not. And so, like, I used to be in the gym like 5 hours a day before this, starting from when I was in like high school. And then college is like, oh, I should focus on my studies, and really focus on this. But at the heart of it, I really want to play basketball and follow this passion. So, I just decided to take a risk and go after it. And, it was great. I got to play with people that were playing in FIBA and guard 6'6" guys. I'm 5'8". And, it was a huge learning experience. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, because one, training, and two is like, you're always like, there's always failure, like you don't make the cut on the team, or, things don't work out. Because I was living in the Philippines, my papers didn't work out. I got hurt. But what it really taught me was resilience. And I don't think I could have gotten to this point without all that trial and tribulation through that experience. So I think you had the same thing with the wrestling thing too, right?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's huge. It's important. I think sometimes it'll feel like you're really great at something, and when you push into it further, you're like, oh, okay, I'm pretty good, but I'm not like that guy, and I'm not like that guy over there, or that guy, and then you kind of realize you're like, oh, okay, like I thought I was, I'm good, but I'm not. I'm not a savage like some of these other people, and so I think that's a valuable lesson, and it's a great lesson that you can learn. You probably only really see it in sports. Like you don't really, obviously, like when someone's intelligent, but I think there's maybe like a block in your brain that won't allow you just to kind of like surrender or admit that someone could work harder than you in certain aspects. But it's pretty clear when someone's faster than you. Or it's pretty clear when you get on the court or when you get in the weight room that someone's stronger than. It's like just obvious. It's like, okay, that guy's using a lot more weight than you, or that guy boxed you out for that rebound a lot easier. But I think there's it's hard for people to kind of recognize, and I think it's a valuable trait is to learn. Part of knowing who you are is knowing that who you're not. You have to understand, like, I'm not like him, and I'm not like him, but I can be like myself. And I can expand upon the things that I'm good at. And you hear a lot of people say, work on your weakness. I'm not going to disagree with that 100%. It'd probably be a decent idea to bring up some of your weaknesses, but why not really hone in on the strengths, and that's where you guys seem like you both have always had good work ethic. It seems like you both want to be creative. And what better job than to work for yourselves, is there than what you're doing? There's not one, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's the job where the harder you work, the more output you get. Like, I just struggle with knowing that I'm somewhere where no matter how hard I work, the ceiling is capped. So it's this freedom, the ability you're an artist, you're creating something from nothing.
Yeah, it is hard to figure out those times when to pull back, right? That can be difficult. I wanted to ask you too, like, what does your meditation look like? Because each person's kind of got their own version. I know some people listen to music, some people listen to stuff on their headphones. Other people say, no, that's not meditating. You got to go like, you just be quiet and just sit on the floor. Like, what does it look like for you? And because you've been doing it for a while, are you now able to kind of like do it randomly, like on an airplane or something like that when there's other people around?
On an airplane, it's still challenging, but I have gotten to a point where I can do it a little more effectively there. But for the most part, it's morning workout, cold shower. If I drive, so I have, like I said, 2 young kids and a wife, family at home. So I can't meditate at home. I meditate in the car. And what I like to do is I like to listen to music because it drowns out the noise, right? We talk about my brain won't stop running. If I listen to something loud enough and then I just focus on my in-breath and my out-breath, I feel that after 15 minutes, so what I found is the minimum effective dose is 20 minutes. If it's any less, I don't feel it. So it's something about noise, and around minute 15, so I get like maybe 2-3 minutes of real like quiet, but that's all I need.
Yeah, that's actually pretty fascinating, and it seems like a lot of things in life work that way. Like even when you sleep, how much REM sleep do you get? You don't get that much, but it's supposed to be kind of the most important part. Is that REM sleep, and I don't know what percentage it's supposed to make up of your sleep, but like I have a sleep tracker and I've been tracking it for a little while, and it's like my REM sleep probably makes up like 20% or something. It's a small percentage, and so kind of goes along with what you're saying about meditation.
What do you use to track your sleep? Do you use the Oura Ring?
So I used a ring that was like that for a little while, but it didn't fit me great. So I got a Fitbit.
Oh, cool.
And I just started messing with that just like as of a couple days ago. So
yeah,
I kind of suck at sleep. I'm not great at it. How about you guys?
I'm trying to work on it. I've been testing out Epsom salt baths. So right before bed. So I did it for the first time yesterday because like, we got to be up early for a flight. And then so I did a Epsom salt bath. And then had like a candle.
Trying to be all romantic.
My wife is like, "What are you doing, man?"
Marvin Gaye playing in the
How
background.
come I'm not involved?
That's great.
And so I tried that out, and I slept really well. I've been using sleep tape. So it's, you just put tape over your mouth.
Yeah.
And I learned that from Ron Penna over at Quest, and it helps out a lot. I feel like I'm more rested using that sleep tape, just focusing on breathing through your nose.
Right.
I think, when you breathe through your mouth, it's not as efficient in terms of, getting oxygen to the blood,
Right.
and to your cells for it to repair itself. So it's an interesting thing that helps out a lot. And then I have blackout curtains too, to help out with that. But I mean, I've been trying to get on a routine of just trying to sleep early. For me, I get really excited and creative in the nighttime, so I have to like tone it down so I can sleep and that I can wake up earlier in the daytime.
It's hard to like just think I'm just going to do that tomorrow. Like I'll get that done tomorrow. But I think, a good principle is just to, you don't have to work until you're like finished with everything, but you should kind of work until you're like done, like quote unquote done. Like I'm done. I can't look at this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's gonna be the hard part because you kind of always feel like you want to do it.
Yep.
But if you kind of ask yourself, like, do I really want to do this, or rather sit down, watch TV with my kids, or rather, lay down with my wife, or whatever it is, you're like, okay, well, yeah, I'd rather do that than do this, and that's a good time to stop. It's a good time to like go home from work, or it's a good time to call it a night.
Yeah, I think it's good to be aware of when your diminishing returns is, and saying, okay, well, I'm gonna come back tomorrow sharper if I just take time off to rejuvenate. It's like lifting. You can't lift 24 hours and think you're gonna get stronger. You got to take breaks. You got to rest. You got to recuperate so you can be stronger. So I think the same thing goes with like work and balance in that sense in terms of resting and recuperating.
There's a book called Deep Work that I love, and it talks about scheduling in the fun time first, and you basically compress work. And now you're not going to compress it to like an hour or two, but you're going to compress it, and within that amount of time, like I notice that I get a lot more done, and I have like an end of workday ritual that helps me kind of turn off, which makes it easier to fall asleep.
It seems like just kind of putting a cap on something too
Yep.
is not a bad idea. I've heard many people say, guys like Warren Buffett, I think Warren Buffett has like 80 businesses or something crazy. And, he said like, there's not really a lot of great things that happen in a meeting once it goes past like 20 minutes,
Yeah.
And it's pretty true. Actually, if you've ever been in like a meeting where there's kind of a lot of people and it starts to go over like a 30-minute mark, it can sometimes lose what it had originally, and it can kind of get almost negative.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, now we're focusing on all the shit that we're not doing very well. Whereas originally the message was, hey, here's how I think we can do some things better, which is kind of different than talking about where you suck, right? They're the same thing, but it's a... And so I think it is important. And I've been kind of learning that as I go along, but I also I have this weird need for like, I need to just I'm working, but I'm not really doing a whole lot. I'm just like journaling, I guess you'd call it. I just sit there and scribble some stuff down in my notebook. It's like kind of a form of, I guess you'd say, personal development. I'm not really I don't really read very often, but I do like listen to audiobooks and podcasts and all different kinds of things. But when I do that, I don't just listen to stuff. I actually like take notes on it. Yep. But then I'll also sit there and I'll kind of go through different parts of my business, and I'll think, how can we improve this? And I'll spend a couple minutes on that, and I'll move into the next thing, and I'll just write it out. And sometimes I write down stuff, and I'm like, this is a badass idea. And then 2 days later, I look at it, I'm like, that was kind of dumb. That's not actually that good of an idea. How do you guys know when you have a good idea?
I feel it. I know it sounds, it's gut. Like a lot of my stuff is like intuition. So I just, if it knocks me off, I'm like, holy crap, I know it's worth at least writing down,
right,
and revisiting.
That's the worst, when you have that feeling like, I gotta write that down, and you're like, you just think that you're gonna forget, and you're like, where's a pen?
Yeah. That's why the phone's awesome. Just jot it down the notepad.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's I don't know. I'll feel it, and then, like you said, a few days later, it might be like, oh, that wasn't that great. At that moment, like, oh, hell yeah, this is a great idea. And then I think part of it is also testing it. I think one thing I've learned is getting people's perspective, because my perspective is way different than a lot of folks. And I have to understand that I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I want to see what other people think. And if I still feel very strongly about it after that, then I'll go forward with it. We'll go forward. I think that's what I love about working with Victor is like we have our own perspectives, and like he shows me things that I don't necessarily see, and vice versa, and we kind of feed off each other. And at the end of the day, after debating, we come up with a greater idea after it. So
It's a yin yang. Like people joke about it, but a partnership is marriage without the sex, right? I mean, it's like, all right, man, you see what I don't, I see what you don't, and in the end, we really do get.
Speaking of marriage without the sex,
Yeah, ours didn't have that second part.
ours is just sex. No, with these two guys, when I had to bring this to their attention. When I first met them, I was like, I was on your keto cookie Instagram, and I'm like, I kind of popped around. I didn't like search through all their Instagram stuff, but I'm like, man, they're together a lot. These guys are really close buddies, you know. And then I like it had the keto cookie, and it talked about what it was and stuff. And then there was like a rainbow on there.
Oh no!
And I was like, what's the rainbow? So I'm popping, you know. But I'm like, I think I've seen pictures of them with like their wives or something, you know. So then when I sat down and met with them, I was like, you know, I got a question for you.
it's been eating at me. What does this rainbow mean?
Yeah.
As our wives are sitting in the back.
They're like, what does that rainbow mean?
Yeah. What is going on with that?
So where did the idea to change the company over to Nui, and what does Nui even mean?
That was a Chris idea. It was at a time when we were actually doing really well with keto. Like, oh, dude, we're freaking crushing it. Let's do it. And he's like, no, man, I think we need to pivot and focus on a different area. And then Nui was the name that you came up with.
Yeah. So like it was actually, it didn't happen overnight. It's pretty much a year-long process. And we're thinking to ourselves like, hey, there are people reaching out to us that aren't necessarily keto, and they're wondering if they can eat these cookies, you know? So like, how do we make it really easy? And we have to just meet people where they are, right? So like my parents, they didn't think they could do keto. You know, they're at first, they learned they're pre-diabetic, and my dad is like really, really into rice, you know, and he's like, there's no way I can get rice. And just going off what Mark said earlier is like, you just start somewhere small, right? And he was able to get rice, you know, in the evening or cut it down in half. And then eventually he weaned off of it and got his A1C a lot better, dropped his A1C. And so that's what we're trying to do on the mass scale is how do we meet people where they are? They might not understand keto or know what it is, but they know that sugar's bad. But the big question is, how do I get rid of this thing that has been such a huge part of my life that, you know, it's what I crave. It brings back a lot of great memories. And that's kind of why we chose the cookies. Like this cookie has been something that people have cherished. I'm like, oh, I love, you know, I want cookies, you know, holidays, I want cookies. And so that's where we decided to change the name, and we wanted something that fit our ethos. For us is like creating something greater than ourselves and that would make a lasting impact. And we found Nui, which means greatness and abundance in Maori. So we're like, oh, hell yeah, that's the name.
Perfect.
And yeah, it's been a fun process. And, you know, we saw this as a bigger thing than, you know, keto. You know, we love keto, but we know we can serve more people this way.
Who's the detail-oriented one?
You're not looking at them.
He's not here. He's back in the office.
Luckily, we have a team, and they're detail-oriented, way more detail-oriented than we are.
We tend to be kind of in the clouds a lot. I mean, it's fun to be up there, but we do have people on the team that help us out.
Do you guys kind of check in with each other a little bit? Like, you know, you're always talking about business, and I'm sure you talk about working out and some other things, but do you ever like check in with each other? Like, dude, like, you know what? You need to take a couple days. Let's both take a couple days off, or like you guys check in with each other like that. Kind of make sure, see how each other's doing, kind of thing.
I think, I think especially when when we're out of the office. So if we're like here, for example, we're gonna spend the night, we're gonna like hang out, and then it's usually during that time for like drinking a whiskey or something. Hey, like what's going on with life?
Right.
We have like weekly check-ins where we like a founders check-in, but it's really when we're kind of like out, just kind of out of the office but it's nothing like formal, but we do check in.
Yeah, it's easy to forget. like we said, it's marriage without the sex. And, we're like, hey, we should schedule date night. No, like seriously, to be able to just check in, I think because there's so many things going on. You're moving at 100 miles per hour that it's easy to forget where we're at. And that's one thing that we've been trying to focus on is like, how do we check in, take a step back and, work out some of the challenges that we've been having. Hey, Chris, this has been bothering me and stuff. And then we talk it out and we're a better, partnership in that sense, just by that communication.
We just go in an octagon sometimes to just like battle it out if we really need to.
Just fight it out.
Just fight it out.
Beat the hell out of each other. You got to watch out. He's probably pretty quick with that basketball.
My calves.
But then he'll just be sitting there meditating. You won't know what's coming next.
He'll be
right?
levitating.
Shaolin monk.
Yeah, he'll be floating. When you guys kind of started this, did you like start to have like a business plan and like I know some people like they like to get real technical with it. They've maybe gone to business school or they've read some books and things like that, and they're like, okay, well, next step is we need a business plan, we need a mission statement, we need like a branding book or some of these things. Did you guys go that far, or was that something you built later on?
So I went to a traditional business school. I studied entrepreneurship, and that's great because I learned some theory, but also I realized that the perfect business plan, I had a lot of other ideas, and I would use the business plan as a crutch to not start, right? Because it was, my business plan isn't ready yet, so it's not going to succeed. I need to make sure that my mission statement is within this length, and I would use that as a tool to procrastinate. So with this, again, we were the market. We started by testing the business, see if we even had a business, and from there, we kind of built as we went.
And the business plan changes, it's like if you're moving, you're testing out different things, so you're experimenting. And a lot of times it's not going to work out the way you thought it was going to work out, and you got to adjust. So for us, it's like, it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to continue moving the ball forward. And I think now that we're starting to grow the team, that's where the mission starts to come in, just so everybody's on the same page on what we're trying to accomplish. Just like you said, making the world a better place to lift, and getting the team on board with that. Because once the team is on board with that, then we can get our community on board with that. And so that's where we see the value of it. But I think starting out, we're just like, hey, let's just go, let's just move, and then we'll learn along the way and make our adjustments.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people are maybe looking at like marketing and business plan before they really have like an idea rolled out, and it's like, well, maybe you should get the product out there first, see how people like it. And, that's what we've done with Slingshot. We've got the product out there, and then people bought it, and now just now, we're finally starting to do we're this Wednesday will be. Well, maybe I guess it'll be our second commercial. I consider it our first commercial. So there we go. But it's like our first official, commercial, like something that we're specifically shooting ads on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. Maybe a specific photo or something like that. We've done a little bit of that. And that's only been in the last 6 months. But yeah, this Wednesday is the first time we're shooting like an actual commercial, which is kind of just seems so ridiculous because we've been around for so long. We've been around for 7 years. But, it's important to continue to get that message out there to new and older customers. It's also important to let people know, what is our mission? Like, what are we trying to do? And this commercial, I think it won't show you all of that, but it'll show you most of that. Give you some good insight into that.
Yeah, exciting.
How about for you guys, marketing wise? What do you have going on? It's do you guys mess with Facebook ads and Instagram ads and those kinds of things?
Yeah, we've been having Facebook ads. A lot of the traction has gone through Instagram. So a lot of people discover us through Instagram, either through influencers or through people just posting about their cookies. I think that's the one thing that we've been fortunate to have is these fans are like, oh, I love these cookies. I'm on keto or I'm on a low carb diet, and they're posting it on Instagram, and that's like free marketing for us. And it's cool to kind of get the whole community on board with that, because we don't have a budget for commercials at this point, and so that's kind of where we're at with that.
I think the owner of Alibaba said one of the greatest blessings was having no money, and I think when you are short, when you have a budget, it forces you to be creative and get the most out of what you spend.
Yeah, I mean, this gym when we first started, we had like one place to squat, one place to bench, one small area to like deadlift in. And at that time, we all would lift as a team. And because of that, we were all on the exact same page. We all were on the exact same program. We all understood how important it was to like not dick around and to be ready for your turn. Like we would go in a circle of like 5 or 6 people on one barbell, which could take forever to work out that way if you're not paying attention. But if you're paying attention and I'm watching you go, I'm watching you go, and I'm watching Andrew go, then I get to watch each weight that you're using for each set. And I can be like, okay, I'm gonna pick up this 10-pound plate because I know that he's gonna need it, and boom, I put it on the side and put the collar on, and boom, he goes. And it just it made us be a little bit more creative with the workout too, because rather than spreading everybody apart and there was other equipment in the gym, but if we were to spread everybody apart, it would keep everybody apart, and we wanted everyone to kind of stick together, have the same mission, the same plan going, and it really made for some really great workouts. And now we have like more options because the gym is so much larger, but and that has its benefits. But there was something cool about like not having everything that you wanted, but also having enough of what you needed. So it's kind of like in that category. You guys have like in terms of like how technical do you guys get, or does somebody on your team get with like who's our target audience? What's the customer acquisition? Some of these kind of business terms that you hear people throwing around. How into the weeds do you guys get with that?
So we actually just took a sabbatical a few days, like a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
My time's all blurred.
Explain what a sabbatical is to Andrew. He's having a hard time over there.
It was more of a mini retreat to do some
Andrew's
strategy.
Andrew's not allowed to leave ever.
Yeah, this is all I know.
Plus that's a pretty big word.
So basically out of the office so that we could strategize and starting to formalize that more. So obviously when you're an entrepreneur, you wear a ton of hats. And we've gotten to the point this year where we're defining more clearly what those hats are and kind of who's responsible for certain things.
Do you guys ever you guys always see eye to eye? Do you guys get into it here and there or get frustrated with each other?
Yeah, we get into it. Yeah, we get into it. But I think at the end of the day, we understand that, we're both looking out for each other, and we're both looking out for Nui and the team. And so no matter what, like, debates that we have, we understand, like, oh, okay.
And honestly, like, the best ideas really do come from that debate. If it's not worth debating, maybe it's not something worth pursuing.
Yeah,
right.
one time we were in a meeting, I think we were going, like, we were really heated, or at least our team thought we were heated. And then at the end of it, they're like, their eyes were wide open, and like, whoa, what just happened? And then we're just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, because you guys are like bros in a way where it doesn't really matter to me. You know, you're not trying to insult each other. You're just saying, what you feel about the company and how to move it forward, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's also, if you don't say what you feel as early as possible, that's when it builds up. And that's when resentment happens, and that's when shit gets bad.
When you guys were starting out, did you start to kind of think about like budget and some of these different things, or did you just kind of literally go?
I think that's one thing that we're trying to work on and improve is just, understanding like, okay, this is what your budget is. For us, is like, we would go by feeling like, what do you think the ROI is going to be on this, on these ads, in this channel? If we spend this much on Facebook, what are we hoping to get from it? And so as we go along, like we're actually formalizing our budgets right now, just because things are moving so quickly, we need to actually give people, their boundaries. Like, okay, you can spend this amount on like free product. Like, this is how much product we can give out.
Yeah.
Some of it, I think it's like martial arts where you level up in belts, right? So maybe at the white belt level, you don't necessarily need to worry about that. But once you get to blue or whatever, then it's like, okay, now the need is here, and now let's build those structures, those systems.
Right. And I think, maybe like you're saying, you would use those business plans as a crutch. And I'm sure a lot of people probably fall into that category where they're kind of overthinking it. And they're thinking like, I'm going to need this money to come in order to do this. And it's like, well, if you can figure out a way just to maybe get the thing out there in the world, then maybe that would be a good idea. Then you can kind of start to figure stuff out from there. If you have a shitty product, people are going to let you know.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think a big mistake that happens is people that spend, let's say, 3 months on a business plan to then try a product and find out that it's shitty, as opposed to somebody within 3 months you can try 4 to 5 different things. It's like, how do you throw more punches, see what's going to work, and then focus your time on building the plan.
And now that you guys are starting to, get more organized and get things together, is that a little bit weird for you? Is that like a little bit of a tough adjustment?
I guess it's like lifting. If you haven't really lifted that much, is just going at it a little bit at a time and picking up, working that muscle, and then it gets better and better each time. Like I'm typically like more not disorganized, but not organized at the same time, and putting structures is kind of a weird thing for me. Is like I'm usually just like, oh, we're going this direction or this direction, and but this process of doing it over and over again, it gets better and better each time. And when we went on this, you say sabbatical, you make it sound like it's 30 days.
This 1.5
It was like
sabbatical.
literally 2 days, 2 days of getting away, and we went deep into strategic planning, and it's something that we hadn't done before, and it was uncomfortable. But just like lifting, it's uncomfortable at first, but you do it more and more, and it gets to be second nature, and that's what we're working towards.
Did you guys maybe avoid that in the past because you were either A, like just didn't have the knowledge, or B, were kind of nervous about maybe that would like hamper creativity, and maybe that just hamper the way you normally operate if there was too much organization going on?
Definitely, and I think in the beginning it would have. It really would have. I think it goes in stages, and we're at a point now because we have a team and they need to be accountable for what they're doing. That has to be built. But I think there's actually room within structure. It sounds weird, but to create room for creativity, as long as you kind of put it in its area and you prioritize it, you're able to have that free flowing time to keep the business going forward.
I saw that documentary that Dr. Dre was in, and they basically just said like, they're like he has a watch, but like we don't know why, because he's never on time to anything, and like, but what he was saying is like I don't feel like I can really confine anything to time because it just throws me off. And then they talked about like some of his other habits of like he wears the same, not the same clothes, but he wears the same type of clothes every single day. I'm sure he's got hundreds of these things, but wears the same shoes every day. I think Steve Jobs did similar things where they just didn't have to have as much decision making each and every day, because that can kind of weigh on you. It can waste time. And then Dr. Dre, they just said like he just takes a super long time with producing stuff. He just allows it to happen. He just allows it to, whatever amount of time it's going to take, he just allows it to happen because he knows in the end, the way that he works, it's still going to be a better product, And I've always kind of felt the same way. I was kind of, we started bringing people in here and we started to try to organize stuff. I was like, oh man, it's making me nervous, making me sweat bullets. I was like, I don't know if it's going to work, but it works well enough because we all learn each other. We learn how we operate, and then we kind of go from there.
Would you say that a big part of it is if you have the right team in the right places, it actually allows more freedom for you to be creative? Because they've got their shit taken care of.
Yeah. My wife and I, her and I used to do every job that there is, and we don't have to do that anymore, and so we're able to spend more time on other things, which is huge. I mean, just about every day I try to spend about an hour or two just by myself. I could be doing just about anything. Sometimes, every once in a while, I just completely waste time. But I think even the time wasted, I think is valuable. Like I think I sometimes just need to do that, because what human being doesn't waste time here and there? And so, I think and sometimes, you might have to just, like look up or follow stuff that you're just really interested in, which might be kind of quote unquote a waste of time, but still might be of value to the company, which is just like maybe me watching other people lift or something like that. Just, I see someone deadlifted 900 pounds, I might get fired up and I might watch a couple videos from that person, or, there's some new video on the carnivore diet. Now that's not what I should be doing, but it's maybe what I want to be doing. And so I might gravitate towards that, but I try to leave some time every day to, get my learn on and to continue to try to educate myself. Because I think ultimately, the ability to communicate and to be able to get the message out in as many different ways as possible is going to be the key.
Yep.
What else you guys got going on? What's coming up next? You guys got any shows you got to go to, or you got a new release that you're excited about? Or I know you guys released the ginger cookies, and those have been successful. And anything else popping out that you can talk about without killing anybody?
Oh, I mean, we've gotten a lot of requests for a variety pack. So people just been, hey, I want to try your cookies. I want to try all the flavors. So we're working on a variety pack right now. And then we're trying to release a product every 3 months. So
Cool.
And we
get
just
people
released
excited.
4-packs too, so it's an easier way for people to try the cookies, because I know for people that haven't tried them, a box of that we offer, the price might be a little high, so offering like an easier entry point has helped a lot.
Oh, that's cool. Are your cookies available on Amazon?
Yeah, you can get them on Amazon and at eatnewy.com. So
And was that a hard transition to do that? Like, was that a difficult thing? Because you're giving up some margins, and it's hard to make sense of it sometimes.
Yeah.
But Amazon is a definitely necessary evil of
Yep.
like what's going on today. I personally think that like if you're not part of it, it makes me kind of almost wonder like if you're a legit company or not. Because
Right.
I'll look up stuff and I'll be like, how are they not on Amazon? I don't like, and then I might not even order it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a necessary evil. They do take some of your margins, but we're like, hey, part of our thing is how do we make it easy for people to one, cut sugar, but also to find us, right? So that's one way that they find us. Most people will look on Amazon before they even Google the product. So we're like, hey, you know what?
Yeah, that's a new thing. People use Amazon as a search engine now,
Yep.
which is
Exactly.
pretty wild.
Yeah. So again, we did it last year, a few months ago, and our launch went well. I mean, I think what's helped is that we like to be very transparent with our community, tell them our goals, be very vulnerable as well, and we also launched the new flavor in conjunction with our Amazon launch, and we were excited about the opening day.
What do you guys think was the hardest part in just getting this business off the ground in the first place?
Hardest part. I think just finding out how we're going to sell it. We're trying to decide, hey, are we going to go into retail or are we going to go e-commerce first? And because we hear a lot of people like, oh, I can't wait till I get on the shelves of Whole Foods, and that's the goal.
Right.
But we are fortunate enough to talk to a few people who, they're like, well, if you go into Whole Foods and they don't like they're not selling enough, they're going to buy your product. You're going to have to buy your product back. It's like 10 grand. And also I think we heard on the podcast with Tom Bilyeu from Quest, he's like, you know what, build your fan base online and then bring them to retail. And so that was one of the big decisions that we had to make moving forward. But just hearing people that have done it before made it a lot easier for us to make that decision.
I think a lot of it, at least for me, was psychological. I think a lot of entrepreneurship is psychological. So it was every day, how do we do something that's outside of our comfort zone where we might feel a face rejection, and just doing that consistently, I think is what helped. But that was the biggest barrier, like doing something where we might fail.
What do you think is maybe the most valuable lesson that you learned in being an entrepreneur that you could share with someone else that's listening right now that wants to someday own their own business?
I'd say go for the home run. Now, don't leave everything to just go for the home run. But if, like for example, Shark Tank, if we would have never tried out for that, we wouldn't have have gotten the success that we have now. So it's no matter what you do, plan for today, but always go for the long shots.
Yeah, I think one of the big things, like just going off what Victor said, is this: just think bigger than what you think you're capable of. You'll eventually stretch yourself to be able to accomplish at least something close to that, if not that particular thing. So like we could have easily said, well, there's 40,000 applicants on Shark Tank. There's no way we could get on there. But we were like, no, let's do it. And we didn't just go in there like, oh, I hope we get on there. Let's really prepare like we're gonna be on there. And that's made the huge difference, is that expectation and setting a higher bar for ourselves.
And even some of the contacts that we've built, if it wasn't for Chris reaching out to you, where maybe some people would have said, hey, well, I'd never get the time of day or this or that. we wouldn't have had a chance to sit down and actually learn from you. And it's happened that way with other contacts as well.
I think that's a really valuable lesson that I learned was like I don't really I don't like to like bother people. I don't like to ask for shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't feel right. I don't like I don't always want to like throw a slingshot on people, but that's what I chose to do, you know. And so I mean, if I'm not going to do it, who is, right? So I got to take some risks and sometimes maybe go outside of what my normal personality might be. And I got to shove a slingshot on Joe Rogan. I got to shove a slingshot on this athlete and that person. And maybe not everybody's going to always like it, you know, and maybe they're going to, you know, be mad that I even was that forward and just stuffed them into it, you know. But it is a necessary thing. It is part of being in the space. And, you know, if you don't ask, you know, somebody that's leveled up, if you don't ask them some questions, and how you ever going to really learn it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we wouldn't have gotten to where we are now if we wouldn't have asked people that have been in it, you know, like asking them for advice and being humble in that sense, and saying, hey, I don't know all this stuff. And like, what have you done? You know, what is your experience? What do you suggest that we do in growing this business?
And I think when I first met you guys, was that your first time meeting Ron as well? From Quest?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way that worked out, I mean, had you not reached out, now you met, you know, you met myself that kind of bootstrapped this invention, right? Well, then now on top of that, you meet this guy that created a multi-billion-dollar company, Quest Nutrition. I don't think anybody in the history of like the quote-unquote nutrition food space has done it any better than them. I mean, it's just unreal. So you got a chance to rub elbows with both of us in that one day.
Yeah, it's
That was
perfect.
unreal, man. We're just driving home. We're like, wow, I can't believe what just happened today.
Yeah.
Well, that was cool too, because but see, like it's not. These things are not by chance though either, because when I mentioned you guys, I was like, oh, these guys are gonna probably, you know, pop up around there, and he got excited. He's like, oh, I was like, I love those cookies. You know, he was all pumped, and it's like, well, if you guys didn't lay down the hard work already, or if you're still stuck in that business plan,
Yeah.
you know, hey, we got this idea. We were thinking maybe we'd make these cookies, but we're not. It's like nobody wants to hear that shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people are afraid of at least reaching out or asking, right? I think I reached out to you when you're on an Instagram live, and then I asked you a question about like.
Did I tell you to go fuck yourself? 'Cause I do that.
No, but I had asked you, you know, what do you tell yourself in the morning, you know, to get yourself pumped up and refocus, and what's your self-talk? And you sent me that message, and you know, that was an awesome opportunity.
What the hell did I say?
You told me to keep it a secret. But I think a lot of it is like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, they're probably gonna there's this fear of rejection, you know, and it's a matter of like, you know what do I lose by what I lose by reaching out, and what do I lose by not reaching out? And so I think a lot of people forget that. It's like, what am I losing by not doing this certain thing? And
that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you missing out on if you don't? You know, so what? You ask for something and someone's like, "Hey, no."
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe like some people with business are very private. You know, they don't want you to know anything about their business. You know, they want to try to keep it all under wraps. But I think in general, the day and age that we're in now, I don't think there's really a lot of secrets that can be kept anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to find out your co-packer or who made your whatever, who designed this or that. I mean, they can dig and they can probably come up with some answers if they're, you know, and it's like, that's not the game though that we're playing. The game is about execution.
Mm-hmm.
The game's not about where you get your shit made.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody can do that. That's the world that we're in now. You can Google search stuff and you can start to find stuff, and you can probably, you know, make a slingshot or make a cookie or a brownie or whatever it is that fits a keto diet. But can you execute? You know, can you get the right packaging? Can you, which takes an entire team in and of itself, and good luck trying to figure out that whole thing, because you might have to get 20,000 of these things made, or 10,000, you know. And now, like, your little idea that you had that was this like small thing, and now it's like, okay, well, that'll be $1,000. That'll be $5,000. And like, oh, shit. Okay. Now this idea that I just had, is now turning into a $25,000 experiment.
Yep.
Yeah.
It gets out of control quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
You were making that analogy about the home run, and something I want to share with you guys. I think I might have shared it yesterday, but the baseball analogy of a home run, being able to knock the ball over the fence, and depending on how many people are on base, you get X amount of runs for it. You might get one run if no one's on base, or you can get as many as 4. Mm. But in business and in life, when you go up to bat, if you knock it out of the park, there's not a limit on the amount of runs that you can get. Yeah. So in one at bat, in business, you can get 1,000 runs. You can cash in really big. It could be something that changes your life forever. And that's what happened with you guys. You're like, okay, we're going to embrace this diet, and we still want to eat stuff that's sweet, man. This is no fun. Like this diet sucks. We want to enjoy something that still hits our cravings, Mm-hmm. And you did that. So congratulations on that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much for just all the wisdom.
Anything else over there, Andrew?
Yeah, these guys ate nothing but Nui cookies for 7 days straight. What the heck was that like?
You guys were dying. I remember that.
Yeah, what was that like?
So, we wanted to put our money where our mouth is, and to prove that it was ketogenic, and in no way is this a claim that that this will put you in a ketosis state.
We're not making claims.
We decided to go completely off the rails, eat burgers with the bun, French fries, pasta, and get off keto. And then we're like, all right, let's try to get back into ketosis by eating nothing but cookies for 7 days straight. So we ate 16 cookies
a day.
Damn.
1,800 calories. We didn't want to do a huge calorie deficit to show that is this calorie deficit. Right. We got into deep ketosis, normally ketosis is 0.5 millimolars. We got to 3 or in 4. So it's kind of like you've been fasting for 3 days, and that's what it showed us. And it was definitely, it's not as fun as you would think it would.
I won't do it again.
Because at some point, you're always having the sweetness in your mouth all the time. And we were craving steak, and
I think my daughter was having scrambled eggs, and I was just salivating looking at them.
Yeah, so we're just craving savory stuff, but it's a great thing to see. I think we lost a combined of 8 pounds in about a week.
Yep. We had different strategies too, because how are you gonna eat 16 cookies? So mine was I'm gonna front load them and eat as many as I can, and then just space out the rest. And Chris was like, no, I'll split mine up into what was 4 meals of 4.
Yeah, it was 4 cookies every hour, or every couple hours, and then I was like, I'm gonna try your way.
And then I tried your way. We ended up switching, but it was crazy. We documented everything. There's a YouTube video on it somewhere, and again, it was just man, how do we take this to the next level and just show what our product can do?
That's crazy. And did you have anything with the cookies, or just water?
Water or coffee?
Yeah, water and coffee. Yep.
Coffee would be pretty good.
I remember watching that, and I remember what I really liked about it is you guys were very transparent, somebody that's just trying to just make a sale. They'd be like, I feel great. This is awesome. You guys were like, man, I'm not feeling so great, but I am in ketosis.
I think you got the keto flu, right? Really bad.
So bad.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't compensate for the loss of electrolytes. So I think by day 4, I threw in some numb tablets or salt in my water.
Right.
I felt so much better, but I was dying, dude. By day 2.
It's not amazing with the keto diet with a little bit of salt or potassium or some of that stuff can really.
It's a big change.
It can really change the way that you feel. Anything else?
That's it.
All good to go. All right, thank you guys so much for coming on. Either one of you guys have any more questions? You guys were asking me a couple, so.
Actually, yeah. So
here we go. This has happened before on this show where it goes for another hour from here.
So a question that I used to ask in my past life was, what is your male standard? So when you have moments when you feel like you don't want to get up in the morning, or you need to keep pushing, where you're feeling anxious, what does your internal dialogue, what do you say to yourself to keep going? It's a mantra, something you believe?
It's pretty rare that I get hit by that, and I think that if you a lot of people are into like programming, right, in their training, and I've never really programmed my training. I've followed other people's programs before, but it was less effective than me just doing what I want. And part of the reason for that was that I've been lifting for a long time, and so what I'll account for is I'll account for the workout, but I'll also account for what is it going to take, like what is this workout going to cost me. And I think in my everyday life, I try to think about like what is this going to cost me. If I hang around and I don't know, go out. Let's say I go out to drink. Okay, like makes total sense to go out and have a couple of drinks with some friends. A lot of people do that. A lot of people really enjoy that. But what's it going to cost you? It could cost you your life if you drink too much and you drive, right? I mean, that's a pretty damn big price to pay. It could cost you a night in jail if you got a DUI or something. It could just cost you the fact that you got a little too drunk and you woke up a lot later than you used to. There's a lot of things, right? And I try to evaluate, what is this going to cost me? When you think about buying like electronic devices, a phone or a television, or just, there's a price. It costs a certain amount of money, but then the real cost is watching it. You're spending a lot of money. Time is money, right? Time is money. Doesn't matter who you are. Anybody that's got a job is getting paid getting paid hourly, whether they want to like think about it that way or not. Like I get paid hourly. We all get, even if you're on a salary, you can still get paid hourly in some way. And you can still break it down into math that way. And I think that I'm always trying to think about like, what's this going to cost me? So rarely do I think that way. Rarely am I like, man, the last thing I want to do is get out of bed. It's been, I would even kind of say that it's probably been a pretty long time. I don't think I'm ever thinking of like I don't want to get out of bed. I might be thinking of how the fuck am I going to get out of bed? Because a lot of times I'm really sore from a workout or I'm a little beat up and I'm like, man, like, okay, what parts don't hurt? What can I swing off the side of the bed first to get momentum to get going? But I'm usually pretty positive. I try not to allow for negative self-talk to come in. And even if I start talking negative, I try to correct that the best that I can. But in those times when things like that do happen, like let's say I wake up and I'm just tired, I will just evaluate it. I'll just take a moment and I'll say, does this really make sense right now? Should I actually really be up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Is this something that I need to do for me? Or is this like, am I being influenced by the outside world and I want to show everybody that I'm a hard worker, so I'm going to stay up even though I'm tired? If I'm legitimately tired and I didn't get to bed till 10:30 last night, I'm probably going back to bed. And I'm probably just going to say, you know what? You're an idiot. You need to get to bed earlier. That was not a good, what you did the night before cost you, but you got to get your sleep, because we can't set forth the action that we want to go with, the journey that we want to go upon unless we have our sleep. And I actually think that everything is a building block off of the food. I think the food is the huge part. The food helps us sleep. Food, sleep. You don't ever have to worry about ambition ever again. You got a fire lit under your ass 24/7. I wake up every day and I might move kind of slowly, but I feel like I'm getting launched out of a cannon. I feel I'm like fired up. I'm like excited. I'm like, what can I do today to, make this company better, make my family better, make myself better. And I kind of look at each day as an opportunity to do those things. So it's pretty rare that I wake up and I'm kind of groggy or thinking about just snoozing it out. But I will rationalize. I think that's an important thing. That's what makes us human. And a giraffe or something like that, or a gazelle, like doesn't have an option of being like, I'm just gonna like chill over here for a little while, right? They don't have those options. A lion has to kill a certain amount of food in order to live, right? And as human beings, we have the ability to have a little bit more rational thought towards stuff, and it's okay to be distracted. It's okay to fuck around and play a video game for a little bit. It's okay to It's okay to not have everything. Like, should everything be geared towards your goals? Like, probably not. Like, because you may not have like a specific goal. Like, it's probably pretty rare, but maybe people should. But it'd probably be pretty rare if you have a goal like with your wife, a goal with your daughter, a goal with your son. Like, because it's just, you don't think about that. The goal is obvious. I'm going to raise them. I'm going to protect them the best that I can. I'm going to provide for them in every single way that I can. And, you know, each day is going to be a little different, but maybe you don't have like a set goal for that. So therefore, like, not everything you do all the time is going to always align with these goals. Maybe, you know, maybe you help your neighbor out with something and has absolutely nothing to do with you making more money for your company, has nothing to do with you improving your family or your own life. It's just the guy next door needs help. Or maybe the freaking FedEx guy starts chatting with you about something. You just talk to him just because you're kind, you know, like not everything has to always align with everything. And so, you know, for those reasons, I try to have rational, like my self-talk. I try my best to try to rationalize stuff the best I can and move on from those things and not get in my head about, is this the right thing to do or wrong thing to do? When I have decisions to make, I try to make them, you know, like even just what shirt I'm going to wear, what pants I'm going to wear, what shorts, what socks. I try to just, you know what, it's freaking, you know, 4:00 in the morning, or a lot of times I'll pick stuff out before I wake up. And when I pick it out the night before, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to put this, boom, boom. Okay, good. I got all the stuff I need to wear for tomorrow, and then I'm going to bed. Things like that.
Cool. Well, speaking of going to bed, do you have a nightly ritual and a morning ritual?
I do try to get to bed pretty early. You know, I try to share the message with people that I don't set my alarm to wake up. I set my alarm to go to bed. Because I think sometimes when people are sharing this message of, I wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
First of all, I've said this a million times. I don't wake up at 4 a.m. every day. It is on most days, but I don't wake up at 4 a.m. every day. I'm not a maniac about it. It just depends on when I got to sleep. And I kind of just have at least a minimum requirement of about 6 hours of sleep. I do, when my alarm goes off to go to bed, which is usually like around, it kind of depends on the day. I might adjust it here and there, but it's usually sometime between 7 and 8. I'm not actually like sleeping at 7 o'clock at night. I'm not usually actually sleeping by 8 o'clock even. But a lot of times it's just like, okay, this is the time to like shut things down. Okay, you know, let me see, you know, what's going on with my kids. You know, they got their homework done. Are they prepared for the next day? I might check the fridge, make sure there's some stuff because I cook for my kids every morning. I might make sure there's, you know, stuff that I can cook up for them in the morning. And I might lay out some clothes because rather than trying to shuffle through everything at 4 o'clock in the morning and wake my wife up, I'd rather just have that all prepared. And those little things, those are things that have helped me get ahead. You know, I think a lot of times people are thinking about getting ahead of other people, but maybe you should just think about getting ahead of yourself, which is kind of a weird way to look at it. But could you be, you know, could you be 2 years ahead of where you are now if you spent your time better? I think we can all admit, yeah, like if I did a little bit better every day, I could be way more efficient. And so maybe your company could be, you know, maybe your company could be 2 years or a year ahead of where it is now. If you guys were right, you don't want to be a maniac about these things, but the more prepared you are, the more set you are for things, the better off you are. I also like to take a shower. Now, most of my life I've been someone that showers in the morning, but because of like when I lift and stuff, I usually have to take 2 showers just because of the way it works out. Because I don't like to go into bed without a shower, and then sometimes in the morning I like to take a shower, just kind of wake me up. So sometimes I end up taking 2 showers, but I like taking a shower at night. That also saves me time. So depending on when I get up and how I feel, I might pop into the shower. I might just say, screw it, I'm just going to start my day. And some things that I like to do, I like to just kind of be by myself, and there's no one's awake, so I'll just hang out at my kitchen table, and I'll just I'll grab my notebook and my pen, and I'll just sit there, and I'll throw some headphones on, and I'll listen to either music or listen to a audiobook or listen to podcast or some YouTube video. and I'll just write stuff out. Probably, I mean, my favorite person to listen to is Jim Rohn. I'm sure you guys know who
Yeah.
Jim Rohn. I mean, just the amount of information that came from that guy is just absolutely overwhelming. It's ridiculous. And so I'll listen to stuff like that, but I actually take notes on it. I try to pay attention to it. Other things I might do, like I said, I might go through like a checklist of things with the business. I might look at my calendar, and just the other day I was like, I don't know, I just saw my daughter walking by, and I'm like, Jesus, holy shit, man, she's getting tall. And I'm like, I haven't really hung out with her, just her and I, in like a little bit, So we do stuff as a family a lot. I end up doing stuff with my son because he's getting older and he's coming here to the gym. And obviously, like, I have date night and stuff with my wife, but I'm like, I haven't spent any direct time with Quinn. So I told her the other day, I was like, we're going to go on a date. And she's like, okay. She's like kind of annoyed by it, right? She's like, okay, Dad. And then this morning she texted me. I was at Starbucks, and she goes, how about on Wednesday? We go to the mall, and she's like, you can buy me a bunch of presents, and then we can go out to eat. And I was like, all right, sounds like a date. I've never been so pumped for something in my life. I'm pretty excited about it. But I mean, those are the kind of the things that I try to check in with and try to make sure, each Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
Those are the kind of things that I try to go through, like, morning and night. I also like to get to Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks all the time, but I like to get there in the morning before there's anybody else in there. Like today, I was customer number one. Just little things like that. They get me excited. They get me fired up.
It's awesome.
First person through the door.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's cool.
All right. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Where can people find you guys?
You can find us at eatnewy.com or on social media at eatnewy.
And individual, you got individual Instagrams.
Yeah, at Keto Kristoffer. It's Keto, and it's Kristoffer with a K and two F's. So Kristoffer.
And I'm V Macias 12 on Instagram.
Catch you guys later.